Chapter 941. After walking around the Chamber of Commerce for half a day, they went to other chambers of commerce as well. Looking at Baby Snoring's attitude, he didn't want to go to the Huang-Zhe Astral at all. He clearly wanted to stay here for a few decades to pass his time. However, this young master was really something else. In the end, he spent money to hire a group of mercenaries. There were only 7 of them, but all of them were cave immortals and above. Just a moment ago, Su Fang thought he was preparing them to deal with the 13 eagles. In the end, he hired these mercenaries as bodyguards to go to the Huang-Zhe Astral. Indeed, there was nothing the young master couldn't think of. There was only something he didn't dare to do. This was what it meant to have a policy and a countermeasure. Since he forced me to come here, fine, I'll come. But can't I hire someone to protect me? After treating these mercenaries to a feast, they left the heavenly earth desolate city under their protection on the 3rd day. Fortunately, these mercenaries were hired through the Chamber of Commerce, so they were quite responsible. Some of them scouted the path in the void, while others followed Baby Snoring closely. Once I reach the Huang-Zhe Astral, I'll be able to break through the virtual immortal 8 Dao realm and become stronger. I'll be able to search for treasures there, especially the heavenly fire. It'll be very helpful for cultivating the illusory fire cloud. I want to have the fire cloud emperor body too. Among them, Su Fang was the most inconspicuous. He had been secretly using his mystique to improve his physical body. After a few years of hard work, he had already reached the peak of the virtual immortal 7 Dao realm. It was already unbelievable for him to reach such a realm. His divine aperture was filled with mana, and his young immortal golden armor looked majestic. About 3 years later, the heaven and earth in the depths of the void suddenly turned gray. It felt like dark clouds were about to cover the sky. In the depths of the gray was a huge continent. It was much bigger than the heavenly earth desolate city. The Huang-Zhe Astral. This was a barren land. Upon closer inspection, the void around the Huang-Zhe Astral felt a little ethereal, as if it was covered by a thin veil. When they got closer, they realized that it was a thick gray fog that covered the Huang-Zhe Astral. In the depths of the gray fog, they could see some lightning and thunder, which continuously streaked into the Huang-Zhe Astral. This gray cloud was not simple either. Immortals would be suppressed in all aspects once they entered it. If not for Baby Snoring, Su Fang would have had to walk. The Huang-Zhe Astral realm was indeed terrifying. It was much bigger than the Mirror Moon Wasteland, and the surrounding environment was much worse. He also knew that there was a type of Starzan in the barren marsh astral world. It was terrifying and extremely fine. It existed in the air, and once it was inhaled into the body, it would fill up the flesh, blood, and meridians, making it impossible to circulate true energy and even magical power. Usually, when a cultivator stepped into the Huang-Zhe astral realm, they would stop absorbing to avoid the star sand. Instead, they would perform a small cycle of qi. Of course, the star sand was one of the terrifying factors. There was also another factor that gave immortals a headache. The energy in the Huang-Zhe astral world was complicated. It lacked the qi of immortals, and with the existence of the star sand, it was difficult for immortals to recover their energy in a short period of time. It was the same as cultivators entering the wasteland, they could not absorb the qi of immortals as they wished. It was not that there was no qi of immortals, it was just that there was no pure aura. However, there were also big goblins living in the wasteland. They would find places with qi of immortals in the wasteland and reproduce there, growing stronger. Only experts who understood the Huang-Zhe astral world very well could find those spiritual spaces. There were also some introductions to spiritual spaces in the map he bought. However, it was too difficult for virtual immortals and spirit immortals. The power of the shackles was shocking. It could be said that this was the worst environment Su Fang had encountered since he came to the Great World. After about half a day, they passed through the gray cloud. Then, there was a thick nebula. It was dark purple in color and covered by some purplish-red starlight. It pulled the space into a state of distortion. It was really worrying. Once one entered, it would be difficult to walk out. The power of the nebula's shackles was even more shocking. Even the surrounding experts were affected. At this time, they also began to encounter some immortals who came out of the wasteland. They were all cave immortals and above. There was not a single spirit immortal. It took another 2 days to pass through the nebula. In front of them was a wasteland in the depths of the gray clouds and a large nebula. The wasteland was also a large piece of land. It was just that it presented a faintly discernible picture of the starry sky. It was as if the Huangze astral realm had a special space divine power that was different from the void outside. Finally, they stepped into the Huangze astral realm. In front of them was a majestic and endless forest and mountain range. There were also some nebulas and a special fog that fused with the clouds, covered half of the sky above the Huangze astral realm. It was as if it was suppressing life and making it difficult to breathe. Su Fang tried to take a breath. He did not expect that under the perception of a great perfection paragon, 60% of the air was made up of fine particles. There was also a portion that was made up of all kinds of complicated auras. It was really impossible to absorb spirit chi at will. Law suddenly spoke from the depths. You can activate the world fragment and use it to release the divine power of the world. Then, you can directly absorb the power of the world from this complicated wasteland. You can absorb the power of the world. After being reminded, he calmed down for a while and followed the mercenaries' lead. After flying slowly for a while, there was actually a large canyon in the depths of the forest. There were at least tens of thousands of immortals inside. They were all here to train and fight for treasures. After resting for a while, Su Fang began to secretly activate the world fragment in his yang meridian. The fragment was really like a lotus, slowly rotating. Under Su Fang's activation, divine power surged out. Su Fang then used the divine power of the world to absorb and control the aura around him. Using his great perfection paragon ability, he saw that the aura under the control of the divine power of the world was mostly spirit chi and world aura. After being purified, the remaining 1/3 of the power was directly swallowed by Su Fang. What Law said was true. Those who had mastered the world fragment and had already cultivated the power of the world could cultivate in this wasteland. Although it was not as good as the natural sky, it was still 100 times stronger than ordinary immortals. A doubt arose in his heart. Law, if that's the case, then wouldn't the wasteland also be unable to trap immortals? They can be kings here because they can control the power of the world. That's easy to understand. That's why the constellation of 9 heavens is a famous force in the greater world. Because they mainly cultivate the power of the world, they cultivate the supreme great Tao. Although the wasteland is dangerous, the energy is complicated, and there are all kinds of shackles, it is still based on the power of the world. Therefore, immortals who can use the power of the world can come here and do as they wish. However, there are still many threats in the wasteland. Even if you can control the power of the world, it is difficult to defend against all kinds of accident. This time, you can use the world fragment to cultivate in the Huangze astral. You must be very careful. You have the ability, but your strength is too weak, Law said worriedly. After hearing this, Su Fang became even more wary of the Huangze astral. He slightly sensed the canyon. There were tens of thousands of immortals here, and some of them were disciples of the constellation of 9 heavens. Most of them were cave immortals, but he could not see through their cultivation. Who knew that baby Snoring would rest here for a year before letting the mercenaries bring him back to the heavenly earth, desolate city? So be it. Su Fang would return to the Huangze astral alone. In the complicated space of the outer nebula, a black-clothed, masked woman floated in the nebula. From her aura, there was a nebula that was very similar to the surrounding nebula. It turned into a strange halo that protected her within the nebula. She was not affected by the distorted nebula. This was the extremely powerful extreme nebula art from the constellation of 9 heavens. Master. A black-clothed old man flew over from the Huangze astral. The young master is under the protection of the mercenaries. He is leaving the outer canyon. I think he is going back to the heavenly earth desolate city. How disappointing. The woman's cold eyebrows revealed a hint of anger. I let him come out to train, but he ended up spending money to hire bodyguard. Fortunately, Mother does not know. The black-clothed old man asked, Master, they are flying towards the front. I think they will pass by here for a while. What do you plan to do? My brother has been spoiled to such an extent. If he does not change his personality, he will be mediocre for the rest of his life. I will not be merciful this time. The woman suddenly activated a nebula-like halo. Together with the black-clothed old man, they suddenly flew through the nebula at an astonishing speed. Not long after, the woman and the old man stopped in the middle of a nebula. She started to form a seal, and waves of starlight scattered into the depths of the nebula. Not long after, 9 immortals appeared in front of them. They were Baby Snoring, who was being protected by the 7 mercenaries, and Su Fang. Rise. In an instant, the black-clothed woman waved her hands and released her magic power to cast a spell. The slightly moving nebula slowly stirred up a gust of wind. Young master, wait. Suddenly, the mercenaries felt that something was wrong. They all looked at the nebula that was gradually moving. Baby Snoring looked and said, It should not be dangerous. Maybe we should take a detour. The mercenaries suggested. In the end, Baby Snoring agreed. However, after flying for some distance, the nebula around them suddenly formed a terrifying wave. It also turned into a shocking nebula vortex. Not good. This scene covered the nebula that everyone was in. When the mercenaries saw this, they were so scared that they did not react. However, they still went to protect Baby Snoring. Go back. In the distance, the black-clothed woman grabbed at the void in the direction of the astral Huangze. The nebula storm in front of them suddenly shuttled at the speed of light and swept towards the depths of the astral Huangze. Cough cough. The masked woman took a step back. Her eyebrows were covered in cold sweat. It is not easy to use the extreme nebula art in such a wasteland. It consumes a lot of energy. Where did the young master go? The old man beside her was very worried. Naturally, he went to a dangerous place where he cannot come out freely. The mercenaries have also been chased away. Let's go take a look. The black-clothed woman brought the old man and quickly shuttled away. In the depths of the astral Huangze. Boom boom. In a distant mountain range, a vortex suddenly appeared from the nebula fog. 2 figures suddenly lost their balance in midair and fell to the ground. Brother Bao. Su Fang felt that his body was about to turn into minced meat. The first thing he thought of was Baby Snoring's safety. He was stuck in the rubble. His arms and legs were probably broken. He could not move at all. Some of the rubble even pierced through his thighs. He was no different from death. Boom boom. The side shook. Dust flew and rocks flew everywhere. Baby Snoring appeared with his head covered in dust. When he saw Su Fang stuck to the rubble, he was so scared that he took 3 steps back. Are you a human or a ghost? Su Fang struggled. His wounds were no longer bleeding. I am a virtual immortal. My body is not as strong as Brother Bao's. It is fine. I have cultivated my natal magic treasure in the small world. I will be better soon. Let me help you. No need. I will be able to move in a while. That's right. Spirit strengthening and core concentrating pill. Baby Snoring took out a pill. He was so scared that he was trembling. He poured it into Su Fang's mouth and looked at it in shock. So you are an ascender. I remember you. Your name is Su Fang. So you are an ascender. I heard that immortals who can ascend to the large world are all outstanding people. Indeed, you have the ability to not die. After swallowing the spirit-strengthening and core-concentrating pill, he also secretly swallowed the immortal core pills in his body. He swallowed 10 pills in one go. His bones even made cracking sounds as they healed. Baby Snoring was shocked. What kind of body is this? What kind of natal magic treasure is this? I don't even have one. Chapter 942. Natal Magic Treasure. Su Fang's physical body was almost reduced to human skin, but he was still alive. Baby Snoring could not believe it. My natal magic treasure has fused with my physical body, and I accidentally obtained many good things in the small world. That's why I have such power. Although Su Fang was seriously injured and was on the verge of death, his voice was still loud and powerful. Swish, swish. Just as Baby Snoring was about to speak, there was a sudden movement in the surrounding forest. The air instantly turned cold, and he suddenly remembered that this was the Huangzi spiritual world, the largest wasteland in the outer realm. It was extremely dangerous. Baby Snoring grabbed his flying sword and staggered. He was frightened and panicked, but no matter how scared he was now alone. Su Fang continued to swallow the immortal essence pills and a spirit-strengthening and condensing pill. His physical body's recovery speed was still not very obvious. He was seriously injured to such an extent. He lost a lot of blood, his bones were broken, and his meridians were broken. If it were other immortals, they would not be able to recover without 1,000 years of cultivation. He looked up. This was a dense forest. Around him was a lush sea of leaves, layer by layer, forming layers of clouds that looked like leaves. When he looked at the sky, he felt that the sky was only as big as the mouth of a well. He estimated that the distance between the ground and the sea of trees was at least 10,000 feet. Hiss, hiss. The movements around him were getting more and more terrifying. Baby Snoring suddenly looked over. Why don't I absorb you into my treasure and leave this place first? However, Su Fang did not agree. No, I've lost a lot of blood and flesh. I need to absorb them into my body with my natal magic treasure. If I leave now, most of my blood and flesh will be left in the rocks and soil. My physical body, which has been cultivating in the small world for so many years, will be almost destroyed. Brother Bao is right beside you, but you have to hurry. Young master, you're a cave immortal, and you have a powerful treasure. I know. It was easy for him to say. Baby Snoring was probably saying this in his heart. His hands were trembling and his teeth were grinding. Whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, countless black shadows emerged from the surrounding trees. They were actually large black snakes that stood upright like fighting chickens. These large black snakes were more than 50 feet tall, and their bodies were about the size of water bucket. They looked no different from other snakes, but on the backs of these large black snakes, there was a pair of black wings that seemed to have not fully evolved. Baby Snoring took a few steps back and almost stepped on Su Fang's skin. Winged serpent. Su Fang wished he could immediately roll over like a carp and deal with these large snakes. Brother Bao, winged serpent, I heard that winged serpents aren't very strong, and their snake venom isn't very strong either. Don't let them get close. Don't worry, Brother Bao will not let them get close. The immortal sword in his hand emitted waves of sharp sword chi. Baby Snoring was not weak either, it was just that he did not use it in fight. But this moment was different. He was alone, and Su Fang couldn't help him. He couldn't ask for help from the outside world. If he didn't deal with the winged serpent, he would naturally become the serpent's food. Ziz. A few of the 20-odd winged serpents suddenly opened their mouths and spat out their tongues. In a flash, they pounced towards Baby Snoring and spat out a mouthful of snake venom. Then, they opened their mouths and bit towards his head. Meteor sword. Baby Snoring hurriedly waved his immortal sword. Countless sword chi gushed out from the immortal sword. With a sudden vibration, the sword chi exploded, and a ring of sword chi appeared around Baby Snoring. Pu. When the few winged serpents were less than 30 feet away, they happened to touch the ring of sword chi. A large amount of sword chi exploded, and the sword chi in Baby Snoring's immortal sword became even stronger. The sword chi instantly engulfed the winged serpents. One by one, the winged serpents were cut into pieces. After falling to the ground, they were still squirming. In an instant, snake blood filled the air, along with some snake venom. Baby Snoring sucked in a breath of cold air. He was a little panicked and afraid. Fortunately, he activated his defense and did not let the snake venom enter his body. However, before he could recover, a few more winged serpents attacked. They were still spitting snake venom, opening their mouths to pounce, or using their bodies to coil around Baby Snoring, trying to strangle him to death. Baby Snoring used his meteor sword. The ring of sword chi around him once again shot out rays of sword chi. After a few rounds with the winged serpents, he killed a few of them. Cave immortals are indeed not ordinary. Moreover, the immortal sword in his hand is of high quality. Plus, he has a lot of resources. He is not in danger for now. In just a moment, Su Fong felt as if he was in hell. He was really worried that Baby Snoring would not be a match for the winged serpents and become their food. Although Baby Snoring was a young master, he was not weak. He had been cultivating in the constellation of 9 heavens since he was young. He was not a good-for-nothing. Seeing this, Su Fong was relieved. He activated the Silver Moon Holy Armor to form a protective barrier. Then, he swallowed the immortal elixir and started to use the Nightmare Blood transformation. Of course, it was not a real blood transformation. In order to recover and speed up, he used the power of blood transformation to stimulate the Black Lotus True Body, the perfect physical body, and the dragon taming wood to heal his left arm. This was also the first time in his life that he used all his power to heal his physical body. Gradually, a flame burned on his physical body. The blood that seeped out of his body was also burning and being absorbed into his physical body. The skin began to expand, and the flame of life kept burning. At this moment, under the skin, there were countless blood vessels that looked like lotuses. They threaded through the broken blood vessels, flesh, bones, and organs like needles. The Black Lotus True Body. This was the extraordinariness of the Black Lotus True Body. Of course, it looked like the Black Lotus True Body, but it was also a combination of the perfect physical body, the blood transformation True Body, and the wood elemental divine aura of the dragon taming wood left arm. The combination of various abilities allowed the blood vessels of the Black Lotus True Body to grow so rapidly. In front, Baby Snoring activated the immortal sword and used the sword array. Countless sword seals burned around him. The sword aura turned into rings of light. One layer disappeared and another appeared. The winged serpents that pounced on him were all killed. However, at this moment, there were a large number of winged serpents around him. There were at least a few hundred of them. There were so many that they could not attack together. At this moment, Baby Snoring and Su Fong had unknowingly been surrounded by the winged serpents. If I were a cave immortal, I would suppress as many winged serpents as they come. Looking at the winged serpents, Su Fong felt the threat of death. He also felt a sense of helplessness. The only thing he could do now was to recover as much as possible. The Black Lotus blood vessels wrapped around his physical body, forming a blood-red cocoon. Among these blood vessels, True Qi and Yang Qi were roaring and running wildly. His broken blood vessels and bones were fusing together. About 6 hours later, the winged serpent corpses piled up around him. Su Fong felt as if he had fallen into a world of winged serpents. Baby Snoring floated above him. He looked exhausted. However, he still activated the sword array. With the immortal sword as the eye of the array, he killed many winged serpents who were attacking him one after another. The sword array was dominated by starlight. The entire sword array was like a dazzling painting. It was beautiful and dazzling. Time flew. About 3 days later, from the depths of the winged serpent corpses, the illusory fire cloud transformed into a human figure and gradually rose. Su Fong floated within it. He summoned his flying sword. The silver moon immortal armor also appeared. He flew out of the corpses and saw a baby snoring sitting in the middle of the sword array. He was still using the sword array to kill the winged serpents that were eyeing him covetously. Seeing this, Su Fong was in disbelief. He had dealt with many demons in the small world, but he had never encountered a nest of winged serpents like this. He shouted, "Brother Bao!" Baby Snoring was overjoyed. He immediately flew up on his sword and controlled the sword array to move slowly. "It's finally done. These stinky winged serpents, there's no end to them. We have to leave. I think this is a nest of winged serpents." Su Fong said, "Brother Bao, my natal magic treasure has the ability to suppress demons. Why don't you use the sword array to trap the winged serpents? I'll use my natal magic treasure to refine them alive into energy. Let the winged serpents see their companions in agony. I'm sure they'll be able to retreat." There were too many winged serpents around them. Even the trees above them were filled with them. They couldn't leave by flying on their swords. Baby Snoring didn't have any ideas at this point. He didn't have any opinions. Naturally, he would listen to Su Fong. Su Fong came to the center of the sword array. He instantly summoned the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. It grew to a size of 100 feet. A low-grade Dao artifact. Its quality is still the lowest of the low-grade. Can it work? Baby Snoring was doubtful when he saw the quality of the Six Paths Pagoda. "It's fine. It can do it." The latter was very confident. "All right then. Watch me." The sword array suddenly condensed a large number of chains made of sword patterns. They swept towards the winged serpents that were charging towards them. With an absolute advantage, they locked onto the winged serpents and captured a dozen big goblin. 6 Profound divine power, illusory fire cloud. From every layer of the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda, a large number of seals surged out. They merged with the illusory fire cloud that was burning and turned into a special burning cloud. The burning cloud immediately swallowed the dozen winged serpents. The winged serpents were screaming in pain. They looked extremely ferocious. In just a few breaths' time, the winged serpents were burned until their skin fell off, revealing their flesh. Soon, even their flesh was burned, revealing their bones. Whoosh whoosh, another large number of winged serpents surrounded them. However, they were still trapped by Baby Snoring. The previous batch was turned into ashes under the illusory fire cloud and the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda's divine power. These dozen winged serpents were once again trapped in the burning cloud. They screamed in pain as they were burned, and their screams echoed around the forest. "Comfortable, comfortable. The essence of the winged serpent's spiritual pearl and demonic aura have all been absorbed into my body. The power of 9 Yang can also fuse with all kinds of energy. This has increased my strength and helped me recover." It turned out that he wanted to use Baby Snoring's strength and the divine power of the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda to not only refine the winged serpents, but also to absorb their energy. The two worked together. Baby Snoring was still consuming divine pills from time to time. On the other hand, Su Fong was getting more and more energetic. She had refined hundreds of winged serpents. Hiss, hiss, suddenly, they wanted to intimidate the winged serpents and scare them away. They did not expect that the winged serpents above and around them would attack the two of them together after seeing their companions screaming in pain and being burned alive. It felt like any light would be covered by the tens of thousands of winged serpents. Protection. Baby Snoring trembled. He immediately released the bell and covered himself and Su Fong. With the bell, the winged serpents could not kill the two of them. As expected, no matter how the winged serpents attacked the bell, it was useless. Some of them were even killed by the bell. Su Fong then absorbed the winged serpents' corpses around him and kept burning them. There was too much energy, so she also absorbed it for Bai Ling, the undying tortoise, green feather king, Zhu Huang, and other big goblin to absorb. Tired as a dog. There's even some snake venom. Baby snoring floated to the side. Looking at the bell and Xian Guang, as well as the winged serpents that were being shaken away, his expression began to fade. His body was being corroded by the snake venom. It seemed that he had been poisoned. At this time, Su Fang noticed that the snoring had changed. Even with the bell, he was not completely at ease. He still kept an eye on the surroundings to prevent any accident. This was not the baby snoring of the past. If it was in the past, he would not have such a meticulous and calm mind. When baby snoring saw that Su Fang was burning the corpses or directly absorbing the corpses into the Xianguang, he was shocked and in disbelief. Why do you need these snake corpses for? Disgusting. Chapter 943. Su Fang smiled mysteriously. There are some demon immortals in my artifact that need food. These winged serpent corpses can be used as food. Oh, a low-grade Dao artifact is so powerful. Even baby snoring, a young master who had seen many treasures, was shocked. Su Fang looked around and saw that the bell was being attacked continuously. It seems like these winged serpents are not going to let us go. What are you afraid of? This artifact was made by my father, and it has fused with my blood. It will soon become my natal artifact. With immortal stones, I can save a lot of vital energy. If not for the past few days, I would not have any vital energy left. We can only wait now. I don't believe that the winged serpents will bother us forever. I suddenly missed the constellation of 9 heavens. Baby snoring suddenly shrugged and said regretfully, "When will these days end?" Su Fang was not in a hurry. Since he had the bell, he did not have to worry about anything else. He quickly collected the corpses. This way, he could become stronger, and the big goblin would become stronger as well. Chi. A few days later, the winged serpent's attacks were still exploding. Suddenly, a burst of tribulation aura shot out from Su Fang's body. I'm about to break through. Come, spirit strengthening essence condensing pill. The explosion of tribulation aura made baby snoring know that Su Fang was about to break through. He immediately grabbed the air and took out a spirit strengthening essence condensing pill, which was many times more valuable than the immortal essence pill. Su Fang did not stand on ceremony. The spirit strengthening essence condensing pill was indeed amazing. It could help the physical body cultivate, heal injuries, condense dermic powers, and condense the essence spirit. At this time, he had no choice but to break through. After absorbing so much energy, he could only use these opportunities to break through to the spirit immortal realm. In front of baby snoring, Su Fang still hid some shocking secret. Following that, the tribulation aura and tribulation fire engulfed Su Fang. Large amounts of impurities seeped out of the placenta, and from time to time, a bloody mist appeared on his body. His skin started to burn, revealing his blood. Even the skin on his face started to peel off layer by layer, but it was still burned by the tribulation fire. He swallowed a few more immortal essence pills. Only now did he remember that Wang Yu was really good. If he had not bought a large number of immortal essence pills from her, he would not have had so many resources to use on this trip. The power of advancement quickly battered his body. During this time, baby Snort would occasionally stare at what was happening outside, hoping that Serpent Wing would disappear. Winged serpents were low-level Yao immortals. These creatures were savage by nature and only knew how to kill, not fear. In their eyes there was only food. Virtual Immortal 8 Dao Realm. Several days later. After the promotion, Su Fang's skin was as white as a baby's. It was extremely tender. He immediately saw 8 Dao marks in his dantian, golden core origin, body defense, and divine aperture. This meant that he had stepped into the virtual immortal 8 Dao realm. His meridians, bones, flesh, and blood had all undergone astonishing transformations. They were several times stronger than before. His body had also become several times more profound. The amount of energy he could store was indescribable. At this moment, Su Fang's overall feeling was that he was as light as a feather. He did not have any weight, and there was not much immortal energy in his body. At this moment, baby snoring gave him a spirit-strengthening and condensing pill. It was given at the right time. He had just broken through and his yang immortal essence was weak. He did not have enough true qi and dermic powers. This was the time when he needed energy. Next, he kept swallowing immortal essence pills. Thinking back to the small world, everyone had to swallow one immortal essence pill separately. The energy was terrifying. When he had just stepped into the large world, one immortal essence pill was enough to digest for a while. Now, he could swallow 10 immortal essence pills at once. My perfected abilities have also changed a lot. There's terrifying demonic aura around me. There's too much of it. I'm afraid this barren land is the big goblin's territory. Another month passed. Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes and smiled. Next, I can borrow young master's strength to suppress the Yao immortals for my use. Just as the two of them were waiting, not knowing how long they would have to wait, the winged serpents actually fled in panic. The winged serpents that were attacking the bell also stopped attacking. They looked around, as if they had sensed a terrifying power. Baby Snoring and Su Fang also looked around curiously. The winged serpents had stopped attacking, and the two of them could not smile. They could feel a terrifying aura around them. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, a black and blood-red monster came from the forest in front of them. It smashed through a huge tree and came out with a burning demonic aura. The black and blood-red monster was fleshy and did not have eyes. It only had a bloody mouth that looked like a sunflower. Baby Snoring cried out in fear. It's a gluttonous devil from the gluttonous devil path world. Su Fang also stared at the monster in disbelief. It's really a gluttonous devil. It's so huge. It's 1,000 feet long. How can there be such a shocking monster? It's 100 times bigger than a normal gluttonous devil. Of course, this is not a normal gluttonous devil. Rumor has it that there are gluttonous devils that have lived for many years in some barren lands. I didn't expect to meet one. No wonder the winged serpents are running away. Let's go, this gluttonous devil is too powerful. Alright, let's run. The two of them had the same thought. Fortunately, the winged serpents were running away. Baby Snoring sucked the bell into his mouth and summoned his flying sword. He carried Su Fang and quickly followed the winged serpents into the depths of the forest. Cough cough. After flying for a while, they could still see many winged serpents around them. Behind them, a large part of the forest had collapsed. It seemed like the gluttonous devils were chasing after the winged serpent. Baby Snoring suddenly coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. I've been poisoned. Su Fang hurriedly took a look. The snake venom isn't that strong, but there's too much of it. I can't force it out in time. It's already seeped into my meridians and will slowly enter my organs. Brother Bao, I've obtained a treasure before that can help people absorb poison. Keep using your flying sword and find a place to rest. I'll help you neutralize the poison. You can neutralize the poison. Demonic poison is the natural enemy of humans. It's the same as demonic poison. Even an expert like my elder sister would have a hard time dealing with this kind of demonic poison. I'll try my best to. Try your best. While running for their lives, the two of them smiled bitterly from time to time. Su Fang secretly asked the Blood Wraith True Demon to help. It released its special power through its palm and began to slowly absorb the snake venom that was forced out of Baby Snoring's body. Sure enough, it could absorb snake venom at will. It seemed like Su Fang was absorbing the snake venom into his body, but in reality, it was being converted into the Blood Wraith True Demon's body. This method of neutralizing poison was unprecedented. How could a righteous cultivator allow an evil blood wraith true demon to live in his body and fuse with his flesh? Therefore, other than demonic cultivators, Su Fang's method of neutralizing poison was unique. When the blood wraith true demon devoured the snake venom, its own toxicity would also increase. Baby Snoring could clearly feel the poison in his body being forcefully extracted. He looked at Su Fang in surprise. I didn't expect you to be able to neutralize demonic poison. Haha, now that we're in this wasteland, let's neutralize this big threat first. There are big goblin everywhere. We can be poisoned anywhere. This bit of demonic poison isn't that bad. It's still troublesome when we encounter that special big goblin. He was able to keep his cool. Of course, he didn't want Baby Snoring to know all of his abilities. Roar, who knew? He was probably distracted at this moment. Suddenly, a group of wild beasts appeared from the side. Base, are they wild beasts? Bed sickness? Armpit complex indent? Green? Hammer? Hydra? Delete Hydra? Plant laziness? You're courting death. Baby Snoring was no longer tormented by the snake venom. In addition, he had swallowed immortal pills along the way and recovered quite a bit. He immediately took out his flying sword and looked at one of the wild beasts. This cowardly wild beasts? Su Fang suddenly didn't hold back. Brother Bao, it's best if you capture them alive. My natal treasure can suppress demonic beasts. Moreover, after suppressing the demonic beasts, part of its demonic power can be added to my body for me to use. Alright. Sword net, go. He suddenly increased his aura. The sword chi that was rushing over suddenly turned into a huge net, trapping the first wild beasts. Hang? These wild beasts? Bed sickness? Difficult? Sang? Robber bustling shirt? Guang Hu stupefied horse? Liquefied coal, chirp kappa robber sigma emperor Huang Hu smart sang? Rui Mei Jue Ding Su Fang was instead happy. He chuckled and released the Xian Wang 6 Paths Pagoda. He suppressed one wild beasts that came. Once they entered the Xian Wang 6 Paths Pagoda, he activated the Supreme Heavenly Demon Disintegration Seal. With the advantage of his primordial spirit and the cooperation of the 6 Paths Pagoda, he directly suppressed the wild beasts whose primordial spirits weren't that strong. Base in this way, wild beasts one after another? Emergency House Huang Hu? Dazed? Zhan Lai? Wild Beasts Generation Huang Yi? Chivalrous Stool Dang Huang Yi? More than a dozen wild beasts? Bushes return to twilight chirp kappa mushroom Xiuqiu? Bat exposed South Sea ostrich face shallow ridge. After passing through some forests, they suddenly saw a hidden dangerous place that looked like a valley. It was surrounded by giant trees. The two flashed inside and found a cave that was left behind from ancient times. The surroundings were filled with vines and thorns. After they were burned, the cave was revealed. At first glance it looked like a cave, but the inside looked very spacious. Some small animals ran out in a panic. Su Fang shot out a cloud of fire and burned the inside of the cave clean. It was a cave that was dug out by cultivators. There were also some stone tables in the cave. It should be a cultivator who came to the Huangze astral realm to train. Unexpectedly, he stayed here as soon as he arrived. Moreover, there was an altar in the depths of the cave. It was a cultivation altar made of high-grade immortal stones. Baby Snoring immediately sat on it while Su Fang sealed the entrance of the cave. There's a discovery. Baby Snoring suddenly asked Su Fang to go to the altar. It turned out that there was a map on the stone wall behind the altar. Under the map, there was a skeleton, a flying sword, and a storage ring. It was even a high-grade flying sword. I'll give it all to you, hee. Young Master generously gave the flying sword and the storage ring to Su Fang. Since it was a high-grade flying sword, the dead cultivator's cultivation must have surpassed the cave immortal realm. In this world, he was not the strongest, but he was much stronger than Baby Snoring. Baby Snoring stroked the map. After a while, He took out another map and compared it. Suddenly, he made a shocking discovery. Haha, we're in luck. This is a treasure map. In the Huangze astral realm, there's a place called the 100 Rivers Swamp. The map recorded that place, but I don't know what treasure it is. Su Fang also took out the map carefully and compared it. Isn't the 100 Rivers Swamp a very dangerous place in the Huangze astral realm? It's very dangerous there. Look at the skeleton, there are some black spots. He must have died from poison. Now we know that we were sucked into the 100 Rivers Swamp by the nebula. The 100 Rivers Swamp is deep in the Huangze astral realm. We're now in a dilemma. Since we're already here, we might as well go and take a look. If there's really a treasure, we'll leave the Huangze astral realm after we get the treasure. 100 Rivers Swamp. The two discussed for a while and finally decided to take a look at the treasure. Then, they rested in the cave. Su Fang immediately gave the high-grade flying sword to the undying tortoise. This fellow's previous Dao artifact was too ordinary. It was only a low-grade Dao artifact. Now that it had a high-grade Dao artifact, even 10% of its power would be terrifying, let alone 30%. As for the storage ring, it was amazing. There were more than 1 million immortal essence pills and some other pills. Overall, they were of a higher grade than low-grade pills. There were also dozens of middle-grade and low-grade Dao artifacts. Some spiritual items that Su Fang could use too. Now, even if they were trapped in the Huangze astral realm for 100 years, they would not have to worry about immortal pills. Su Fang and the big goblin could often use immortal pills to cultivate. After resting for more than a year, the two went to the 100 Rivers Swamp according to the treasure map. Chapter 944. The forest in the Huangze astral realm was too vast. When Su Fang and Baby Snoring wanted to fly out of the forest and fly above the sea of trees, they encountered the nebula and gray fog above them. The fog and nebula's restraining force was too shocking. Moreover, it contained a terrifying amount of star sand. Su Fang had to expend a lot of energy to refine it. Although Baby Snoring came from the constellation of 9 heavens, his control of the power of the world was not as good as Su Fang's. It was impossible for him to purify the star sand. The two could only return to the sea of trees and fly through the forest. Even some winged demon immortals did not dare to fly through the fog in the sky for too long. The big goblin could not purify the star sand. The star sand was not the only scary thing in there. There were also some natural forces. For example, there were occasional flashes of lightning that appeared in the sky and formed a blinding lightning net in the fog. There was also some star sand under the forest. It was not as scary as in the sky, but it could not be absorbed by living beings. The star sand was a kind of substance. It was very thin above the ground. The higher the altitude, the more powerful it was. The two passed by tree branches that were thicker than a table. They saw some spider webs with some white bones in them. Su Fang took the storage rings and artifacts left behind by the white bones. They were almost all treasures left behind by fallen cave immortals. Finally, they flew out of the forest. There were many mountains in front of them. The mountains were still covered in fog like the stars. The world was very cold. Some of the mountains were piled with snow. Some looked like frozen monsters. They carefully entered the mountains. There were many forests inside, but they were not as vast as the forest outside. After entering a forest, they saw that they were surrounded by cliff. Baby Snoring's eyes suddenly focused in front of him. Vital Qi. There are cultivators here. Su Fang also exerted his consummate ability. After a few breaths, he saw a different and pure aura in the clouds in front of him. At first glance, he knew that it was condensed genuine qi that slowly flowed into the air. Young Master Bao is indeed powerful. He can sense the situation so far away. Even with my full mastery ability, I still need some time to sense it. No matter how extraordinary one's ability was, it was still based on one's realm. He was a virtual immortal, while baby Snoring was a cave immortal. Naturally, it was difficult for a virtual immortal to surpass a spirit immortal and reach the level of a cave immortal. In comparison, baby Snoring was no ordinary immortal. As he ventured deeper, he could sense even more Jinchi. There were probably dozens of immortals in this mountain range, as well as a few experts hiding in the depth. After passing through this mountain range, we'll reach the 100 Rivers Swamp. I wonder what kind of treasures are hidden there. Since there were so many experts around, the two of them did not have the intention to rest. They did not want to be sensed by others. If they encountered these experts chasing after them, the two of them would not be able to escape. After a few days, they finally left the mountain range. In front of them was a boundless sea of trees. This was the 100 Rivers Swamp. There were some places in the forest that looked like lines. It was likely that those places were either swamps or rivers. As soon as he stepped into the forest, he returned to the world of the forest. It was dark and gloomy, causing him to feel uneasy. Also, there were signs of life in many places. Some were signs of battle, and some were the stinky feces of the big goblin. As it got colder, the humidity increased. There were puddles on the ground, forming lakes in some places. Some green snakes swam quietly in the lake. There were also big goblins in other places. At this moment, the two of them felt that this place was still very safe. After comparing the map, baby Snoring and Su Fong confirmed the route and direction. They then began to move deeper into the swamp. From the map that they bought, there was a rough description of the 100 Rivers Swamp. The swamp was very vast, and there were many nests of big goblins in it. There were also some very powerful demon kings. Other than the big goblin, there were also experts of the demon Dao and evil sect who came here to search for treasures. There were often some special spiritual fruits, spiritual herbs, or spiritual items like poisonous herbs in the swamp. They were very helpful to immortals above the cave immortal realm. It was said that some ruins had been found in the swamp before. Why were there ruins in this wasteland? Weren't there few people? From the map, they could see some records. It turned out that some natural changes in the outer realms would form various natural forces that would sweep some large worlds or other void objects into this wasteland. This was an inexplicable natural force, and also an ability that humans could not possess. Just think about it. Some void forces could sweep an object from another void into this wasteland. How amazing would that be? Sure enough, in some of the swamps, they saw huge broken objects that were as big as mountains. They had taken root in the swamps. Actually, there are also cultivators who cultivate in this wasteland. While he was flying slowly with baby Snort through the trees, Law said in the dark, "Although the wasteland is not a place for cultivation, some cultivators with special abilities will always come to this kind of place. Cultivators are more powerful existences. In this world, there are cultivators who are powerful and become the strongest. They will often cultivate in the most dangerous places. Some will die, and after they die, they will become relics." Hearing this, Su Fong's chin trembled. "I think only experts like Huang Fu Duan, Huang Fu Yunhai, Hen Buhui, and Wang Yuzhen can cultivate in this place." Along the way, he often chatted with Law. With Law around, Su Fong felt like he had an extra pair of eyes in this wasteland. Suddenly, the two of them arrived at an empty swamp. In front of them was a quiet swamp that was about 10 miles wide. On the 100 Rivers Swamp map, there was also a record of this river. Baby Snoring pointed at the forest on the other side. The area around this swamp river should be the territory of a big goblin. I heard that the big goblin has lived for more than 100,000 years. If we go around the edge, we can quickly reach the treasure trove. After waiting for a long time and seeing that there was no danger in the swamp river, they dared to fly on their swords. Unexpectedly, under the river, a crocodile-like water monster appeared. It seemed like it could not fly, otherwise it would not have just watched the two of them fly past. After half an hour, they quietly arrived at the other side of the river. As soon as they arrived, there was an obvious demonic aura floating in the air. They tried their best to go around the central forest and gradually went deeper into the forest. Some big goblin flashed past the two of them. They were all very powerful, and almost all of them had the strength of a cave immortal. In the forest, there were also some tree nests or demonic houses built from huge trees. This was indeed the territory of the big goblin. Suddenly, a pungent bloody aura swept towards the two of them along with a gust of cold wind. Quivering, the two of them simultaneously slowed down and hurriedly entered the forest. They did not know where this bloody aura came from. Just as they looked in front of them, Su Fong was first stunned. Then, Baby Snoring's eyes lit up. That's a spiritual vein. It turned out that the thing that attracted the two of them at the same time was a spiritual vein formed from a celestial stone floating on top of a huge tree. It was at least 100 meters long and looked like a small mountain floating in midair. Many tree trunks supported the spiritual vein. Their expressions changed again. It turned out that there was some blood lying on top of the spiritual vein. When they looked again, there was a pool of blood built on top of the spiritual vein. Corpses were floating in it, and a monster was sleeping in it. From time to time, it would eat the corpses. That cauldron is good stuff. That spiritual vein is even better. Su Fong and Baby Snoring suddenly looked at each other. Their eyes revealed the same look. Greed. Baby Snoring said, "That cauldron is a high-grade Tao treasure. It's not a treasure for refining pills or refining equipment. It's probably a treasure cauldron used for marrow cleansing. However, it needs fresh blood or other things to activate its power." Hee hee, you want the cauldron, and I want the spiritual vein. How about that? Alright, can we capture that monster alive? Try to capture it alive. I need a big goblin. Not only did Su Fong want the cauldron, he also wanted to capture a big goblin. It's not very powerful. It's probably at the cave immortal realm. It won't be easy to capture it alive. If we capture it alive, what if it struggles and asks for help from its companions? Fine, let's kill it. I want the cauldron. Their greed was ignited by the treasure. They thought of the same thing and came to the same conclusion. No matter what kind of monster it was, they would think about it after getting the treasure. They came to the desolate swamp astral realm to get the treasure. It was such a good opportunity, especially a spiritual vein. This was a supreme treasure in the outside world. It was much more valuable than a high-grade Tao treasure. There were many Tao treasures, ranging from low-grade to high-grade. Mid-grade Tao treasures were treasures to ordinary immortals. Cave immortals usually used mid-grade Tao treasures. Spiritual veins grew under the ground. Without luck and strength, it was impossible to get them. How could they let go of such a good opportunity? They tried to get as close to the spiritual vein as possible. When they arrived behind a big tree, they could see the monster. They were not on guard at all. At this moment, Baby Snoring took out a high-grade Tao treasure and activated the meteor kill sword. After a series of sword seals, the flying sword flew out of his hand as if it had grown eyes. It went around the big tree and stabbed towards the monster. The two looked over and the flying sword stabbed the monster. It hit the monster's head. Whoosh, whoosh. The two took the opportunity to pounce on the monster like hungry wolves. When they arrived above the spiritual vein, Baby Snoring spat out a sword net and started to wrap around the spiritual vein. Su Fong flashed to the side of the cauldron and saw many cultivator corpses. It was a cruel scene, but he still activated the Xian Guang to wrap around the cauldron. TSK. Unexpectedly, the monster that was stabbed in the head by the flying sword suddenly raised its head and let out a scream that made one's heart tremble. It was as if it was going to be torn apart. Su Fong hurriedly activated another flying sword. This time, his flying sword pierced through the monster's head, leaving a big hole. Only then was the cauldron sucked into the Xian Guang. What a powerful monster! I can't even kill it with a high-grade Tao treasure. Su Fong felt a heavy weight on his heart. The scream just now was probably to inform the other big goblin. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The spiritual vein suddenly flashed and twisted as it was sucked into Baby Snoring's right palm by the sword net. Baby Snoring looked at a tree nest in front of him. It seemed like there were treasures there, but Su Fong grabbed it. Brother Bao, don't look for treasures. Run. That's true. Hee, a spiritual vein is enough to give to my elder sister as a gift. You can exchange it for a high-grade Dao treasure of good quality. Most Dao treasures are trash. Haha. Baby Snoring was very obedient. He and Su Fong quickly ran for their lives. After 3 breaths, he almost wanted to prostrate himself in front of Su Fong. It turned out that there was a sudden loud noise behind them. It was the sound of a giant tree breaking in the middle and the forest shaking. Moreover, a wave of demonic aura was coming towards them like a gust of wind. Baby Snoring felt even more uneasy. Oh no, is that little monster not easy to deal with? This demonic aura can be released at once. It's not a big goblin with the strength of a cave immortal. Su Fong also knew that they were in trouble this time. What kind of big goblins' aura could be used by humans? This was definitely a real big goblin that had cultivated a divine ability. Su Fong quickly said, I don't care what kind of big goblin it is. Let's run deeper and find a place to hide. We'll go to the treasure later. Another few breaths passed. Suddenly, an angry big goblin's voice could be heard. Who is it? Who is it? My son. Oh no, hurry up. They were really in trouble. Baby Snoring was trembling in fear. From the voice, it seemed that he knew that the big goblin was not something he could handle. Chapter 945. The two of them were running away with their tails between their legs. The thick forest behind them was filled with demonic aura. It was obvious how powerful the big goblin was. Even Su Fong, who had seen the big goblin, was terrified. Such a big goblin was just like the monster toad that he and other experts had fought years ago. Back then, the monster toad was already so invincible and terrifying. If the big goblin really came, he would not be able to suppress it even if he used the mixed divine state. Its speed, strength, and divine powers were far beyond Su Fong's. Along the forest, Baby Snoring carried Su Fong on his sword and escaped. The demonic aura behind them was getting stronger. Fortunately, it did not seem to find them. The demonic aura was spreading in all directions, engulfing a large area of the forest. The demonic aura was swallowing clouds and fog behind them. Baby Snoring regretted every time he saw it. That monster has a spirit vein and a blood cauldron. They are both rare treasures. Naturally, it is the big goblin that has a lot of power in this swamp. Why didn't I think of that? Su Fong was calm. The spirit vein is a rare treasure. I want the blood cauldron too. Brother Bao, even if you don't do it, I will do it. Since we are here to train, it is reasonable for us to be in danger. Luckily, the big goblin is not like a human. It has amazing senses. I hope this big goblin's sense of smell is not that amazing. That's true. There are many spirit veins in the constellation of 9 heavens. However, very few disciples have them. They are all in the dojos. If we go deep into the swamp, the big goblin will not be able to find us. Besides, we are not the only cultivators in the swamp. The other immortals can help us distract the big goblin. Haha, that's true. The two of them continued to travel through the forest. Soon, they arrived at another large swamp. The swamp forest in front of us is the territory of another big goblin. Let's go there to avoid trouble. Then, we will go to the treasure. Once they were far away from the demonic aura, Baby Snoring was no longer as fearful as before. After crossing the long swamp river, they saw many big goblins transforming into human forms and flying to the other side of the swamp. They almost bumped into the big goblin. Fortunately, there were quite a few mountain ranges in this swamp, or some large rocks. Moreover, the fog was even more terrifying than the forest from before. It just so happened that he found a large broken rock and hid in the cave. The first thing it did was swallow an immortal pill. After waiting for half a day, and seeing that there was no movement, Baby Snoop began to study the spirit vein. Of course, Su Fong wanted to see the blood cauldron. And using the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda, the two of them saw the monster killed by the two flying swords in the blood cauldron. It looked like a young little demon with a pair of wings that had not fully evolved. Its skin was blood-red and its face looked like a human's, but it did not look much different from a human's. Baby Snoring's eyes were ferocious. Could this little demon be the big goblin's son? No wonder such a demon can cultivate with a spirit vein and have a high-grade magical treasure to cleanse its body. The little demon used the blood cauldron to cleanse its body. Su Fong wanted to know the secret of the blood cauldron, but he was surprised that Baby Snoring knew about it. It is a very special magical treasure among the countless magical treasures. It is called the Crucible Transformation. I have only heard of the Crucible Transformation, the Pill Crucible, the Medicine Crucible, and the Weapon Crucible. The Crucible Transformation is also available in my sect, especially in secret cultivation places. Usually, only genius disciples like my elder sister can enter the Crucible Transformation to cultivate. The greatest ability of the Crucible Transformation is that it can allow any material to enter the cauldron and refine it into energy. Baby Snoring explained in detail. Seeing that Su Fong did not understand, he became even more excited. For example, you are a virtual immortal. You can refine low-grade immortal stones, many low-grade immortal stones and precious stones, right? With my virtual immortal cultivation, I can't refine low-grade materials. The latter answered honestly. In fact, he was not telling the truth. After he became an immortal, he could use the illusory fire cloud to refine all kinds of stones, immortal stones, and materials. Although they were all low-grade materials, he could refine them in a short time. Perhaps even Su Fong knew that this was too shocking. That was why he did not tell Baby Snoring the truth. How could a virtual immortal who had just started cultivating his immortal body have the ability to refine low-grade materials? Baby Snoring pointed at the blood cauldron. Even spirit immortals can't refine low-grade materials, let alone virtual immortals. Only immortals in caves can use true fire to refine low-grade materials and purify low-grade Dao artifact. Therefore, some blacksmithing masters are thinking of ways to let virtual immortals refine materials that are stronger than them. Su Fong was enlightened. I understand now. Brother Bao, you mean that the main function of the Crucible Transformation is to help immortals refine materials that are difficult to refine. That's right. Not only can it refine stones, corpses, immortal fruits, pills, and other materials, but it can also refine corpses, immortal fruits, pills, and other materials. There are countless immortal fire arrays and restrictions in the Crucible Transformation. Once you activate these restrictions, you can refine materials for yourself. Look at this little demon. In order to eat the corpses of immortals and strengthen his demon body, he soaks himself in the Crucible Transformation. Since the Crucible Transformation is so precious, Brother Bao, you can take it. I'm just a virtual immortal anyway. Brother Bao, I don't have anything. Even if it's a Crucible Transformation, I'll get one in the future. Besides, this Crucible Transformation was obtained by your own ability. Just keep it and don't take it out. Even if you're from the same sect, they'll kill you for this treasure. I heard that you killed Uncle Yunhai's son, Huangfu Huaying, for a good high-grade Dao artifact. If they find out that you have this Crucible Transformation, they'll try their best to kill you. He was killed by Huangfu Xiaoyue. Speaking of Huangfu Huaying, why do I feel that the higher-ups of Huangfu Yunhai and Huangfu Duan seem to be harmonious on the surface, but they're all acting? Actually, I don't know much. However, These uncles are trying their best to get my grandfather's position as an elder. I hope that big sister can become an elder. Then, my days will be better. Keep this crucible transformation well. Its value is far more than a high-grade Tao artifact. I guess in big sister's eyes it's a treasure. Speaking up to here, baby snoring touched the tip of his nose. What kind of broken monster is actually using such a precious treasure to cultivate? By the way, Huang Fu Huaing's strength is not bad. He's also Uncle Yunhai's son, so he has a grudge with Uncle Duan. In the future, you'll have to stay in my training ground at all times. Don't go out casually. I know. After saying that, Su Fang nodded. Baby snoring began to swallow the pill. He then gave Su Fang a spirit-strengthening and condensing pill. Su Fang did not choose to eat it this time. Instead, he gave it to Green Feather King. Then, he swallowed the immortal essence pill to quickly recover his true qi. After running all the way, he and baby snoring consumed a lot of true qi. Fortunately, they were in the swamp area, so they could still use the 9 heavenly stars' small phase art to absorb some of the true qi. After recovering his true qi and activating the world fragment to secretly absorb the true qi of the surrounding world, Su Fang could not wait to be attracted by the crucible transformation. Great, this crucible transformation came at the right time. With my cultivation, I can't refine many resources and materials. With this crucible transformation, wouldn't it be like adding wings to a tiger? He released the Yang Immortal and entered the Xian Wang 6 Paths Pagoda to carefully examine the crucible transformation. The crucible transformation was bright red, as if it was painted. It looked very simple. There were many immortal patterns and handprints on it. He also saw 4 words: Void Dust Crucible Transformation. Obviously, this was the name of the crucible transformation. Su Fang felt that the crucible transformation was indeed different from other Tao artifacts. To describe it a little better, it was like a full stomach that could digest anything. It seems that this void dust crucible transformation is not an ownerless object. After seeing through the crucible transformation, Su Fang did not inject his true qi. Instead, he sensed the array formation inside and checked the seal. He was really discovered. It was always better to be careful. He now sensed a demonic qi in the seal that had fused with the array formation. This meant that the void dust crucible transformation had been fused with a big goblin. However, the big goblin's fusion was only 1/10 of that of a human. It could only activate a part of its power. Feeling that the fusion enchantment was very powerful, Su Fang did not dare to act rashly. If he really attacked the seal at this time, in case the crucible transformation aura leaked, wouldn't it attract the attention of the crucible transformation's owner? For the time being, he sealed the void dust crucible transformation in the magic treasure. At this time, Su Fang's attention was on the cultivator corpses. In the end, there was nothing left in the corpses. However, the undying tortoise, the vermilion emperor, and the other big goblins had already smelled the scent of blood and appeared. They turned the blood and the power formed by the spiritual objects into a dozen bloodlights, waiting for the big goblin to open its mouth so that they could absorb it at the same time. About a day later, only the corpse of a small monster was left. The small monster's corpse was very strong. It took 2 high-grade flying swords to kill it. It showed that the small monster's body was not simple. But no matter how strong it was now a corpse. As a result, Su Fang found a storage ring in the small monster's right hand. Great, this was an unexpected fortune. The small monster not only had a spiritual vein, a crucible transformation, and a storage ring. I'll give you the corpse. The small monster's corpse was immediately thrown into the magic treasure space of the dozen big goblins. He estimated that the big goblins would have a good meal, and it would also improve their strength a lot. The more he looked at the crucible transformation, the more he liked it. In the future, when he improved the quality of the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, alchemy, cultivation, and so on, the void dust crucible transformation would be of great help. But for the time being, he could not refine this treasure in this swamp. Boom! They rested for more than half a month. Suddenly, there was an explosion from the right nearby. The two stopped cultivating and quietly left the rock. From afar, they saw a few big goblins besieging two cultivators. No matter how strong the two immortals were, they could not deal with the demonic poison that the big goblins spat out. They would be caught by the big goblin sooner or later. The two were so shocked that they wanted to leave this swamp and go deeper. They found a few more immortals being chased by the big goblin to the end of the road, and ended up being suppressed by the big goblin. After several secret observations and inquiries, Baby Snoring and Su Fang also knew that they had killed the son of a big goblin. It turned out that it was the son of the strongest overlord of these two swamps. The two swamps were dominated by two big goblins, and they were known as the Flying Heavens couple. It turned out that the big goblin couple each occupied one swamp and had been the overlord of this swamp for tens of thousands of years. They had killed the previous overlord and unified this swamp. It was no wonder that after the two killed the small demon, the big goblin in the two swamps were attacking the human cultivators everywhere. Since this swamp was also the Flying Heavens big goblin's territory, the two were treading on thin ice. Whenever they saw a big goblin, they could only hide. After half a year of hiding and advancing, they finally left this swamp. They came to the depths of the 100 Rivers swamp, which was still under the control of the big goblin. However, the mountains in the depths of the swamp were more majestic and more undulating. They stretched across a huge forest. Yes. According to this treasure map, there is a swamp canyon surrounded by mountains in the mountains in front of us. The treasure is in the depths of the canyon. In the forest, Baby Snoring, who was standing on his flying sword, led Su Fang to the mountains covered in star fog. After we dig up the treasure, we will return to Heavenly Earth City. Chapter 946. As soon as they said they were going to dig for treasures, the two of them quickly crossed the forest and entered the mountains. It was still difficult to cultivate freely in the mountains. There weren't as many big goblins as there were in the forest. It seemed that the big goblin didn't like to stay outside the forest. After all, it could absorb some spiritual energy in the forest. They thought that there were no traces of humans in the depths of the swamp. However, when they entered the mountain, they sensed the auras of cultivators. Although there weren't many, there were still some. As they went deeper, they sensed some evil true chi and demonic auras. It seemed that there were hundreds of immortals searching for treasures in the swamped mountains. However, they didn't know if they were here for the treasure. A few days later, they saw a canyon in the depths of the swamp. The canyon was very large, and they could see the lakes formed by the swamp. When they arrived at the edge of the canyon, they sensed that the demonic aura was especially strong. It seemed that there were some powerful demonic experts here. They slowly searched according to the map. When they arrived at the depths of the canyon, they saw a swamp surrounded by forests. The two were certain that the treasure was in the depths of the swamp. However, they didn't find any treasure. Instead, they found many human bones and some big goblin corpses. Then, a very strong demonic aura was released from within. There was also an extremely violent aura of the big goblin. Clearly, there were big goblins and demonic cultivators in the swamp. This treasure isn't easy to dig up. Let's be careful. Baby Snoring knew how dangerous it was. After experiencing danger several times, he seemed to have changed. He carefully led Su Fang forward. They passed through the forest. There was still mud under their feet, and some were icy cold rivers. Suddenly, a huge snake swam through the aquatic plants in front of them. That snake was much stronger than Serpent Wing. It probably had the strength of a cave immortal. After avoiding the snake, they unexpectedly found some immortal fruits in a large tree. Su Fong quickly gathered them. They could give them to the big goblin. Then, they saw some water monsters appear in the deeper and deeper swamp. Until the two finally arrived at the depths of the swamp. They searched every corner of the swamp for the treasure. Suddenly, in a damp swamp, they saw some stone fragments sticking out of the water. There was a hole in the middle of these fragments that released demonic aura. It was as if there was some sort of space within the fragment. Baby Snoring looked at it for a while, and found something else. Among the large number of broken stones, there was suddenly a broken pillar-like rock that stuck out from the sun of sludge. He pointed at the boulder and said, "After so many years, the treasure trove has already sunk into the mud. It's definitely under the boulder, but there's a shocking amount of devil chi. I don't know if a devil Dao expert discovered that there's a treasure trove below." Su Fong, on the other hand, did not feel that there was a treasure hidden somewhere. However, after listening to Baby Snoring's analysis, he felt that it made sense. Perhaps many years ago, there was a treasure hidden somewhere above ground. However, after countless years of sedimentation, it sank into the swamp. That cave entrance, the two of them simply waited. They waited day after day to see if it was a demonic cultivator or some other monster inside. This wait lasted for half a year, but there was still no result. Suddenly, Su Fong had an idea. He released the Leech King into the water. When Baby Snoring saw the Leech King, he was shocked. Only then did he believe that Su Fong really had the ability to subdue demons. The Leech King followed Su Fong's orders and slowly swam in the swamp. It successfully reached the vicinity of the demonic aura cave and lay dormant there for a while. It was only when the demonic aura suddenly sped up that the Leech King returned to Su Fong. The Leech King immediately reported, "Master, there are a few eaters in the cave. They're very powerful. They seem to have built a nest in an abandoned cave. There are a few big goblin corpses. Quickly, let's eat them all." Eaters. So it's not a demon, but a nest of eaters. Since there's no demonic cultivator, these are natural monsters. Brother Bao, how can there be eaters here? Aren't they mounts of demonic cultivators? Eaters are mounts. Those are ordinary eaters. There are many powerful eaters in this world, and their status is even higher than demonic cultivators. This astral desolate swamp is the biggest wasteland in the extraterritorial void. It's not strange that there are eaters here. They should be the demonic cultivators who died here. After they died, the eaters lived on. What should we do? Of course, we should go in and take a look. Baby Snoring suddenly changed. If it was in the past, he would probably only have one word: escape. But now, he was no longer that timid. Eaters are terrifying and poisonous, but they're also a type of monster. Since ancient times, many people have seen them as demons. They like to live in the demonic world. Isn't your natal magic treasure able to subdue demons? What's there to be afraid of? Su Fong smiled bitterly. Brother Bao, what you mean is that you want me to use my treasure to subdue demons. With my current cultivation level and the quality of my treasure, I'll probably be smashed into pieces by the eater's tail. Those eaters are not very powerful. Even if I can't kill them, they can't do anything to me. As long as I don't get poisoned, I'll use my treasure to injure them. Then, you can use your treasure to subdue them. What do you think of my idea? Although I'm stronger than you, whether I can subdue the eaters depends on you. Without you, I wouldn't dare to offend the eaters. Alright, since boss has already said so, what's there to be afraid of? After the two discussed, they hit it off. Su Fong was in charge of attracting the eaters and luring them out of their nest. Young Master Bao's idea has helped me. The eaters are not simple. If I can subdue them, I'll have more ways to attack. He was looking forward to it. Baby Snoring was probably thinking of digging for treasures. He released a stream of blood chi and waved it in front of Chao Su's cave. Roar! Immediately there was some movement. A stream of demonic chi gushed out. A eater crawled quickly. Although it looked clumsy, it was quite fast. Although it was not as fast as most of the big goblin, it was comparable to some of the demons. As soon as it appeared, the eater stared at Su Fang, who was floating in front of it on his flying sword. The entrance of the cave trembled again, and suddenly, 3 flesh-eaters crawled out one after another. Each of them was over 15 meters long, and looked extremely terrifying. Although they did not have eyes, their mouths were constantly swallowing the air in an unbridled manner. It seemed that the flesh-eaters were not like other life forms, and were not afraid of the star sand. Roar, roar, there were 4 eaters in total. They roared angrily and started spewing poisonous gas from their mouth. Get ready! Baby Snoring hid behind them and was about to activate his treasure. Su Fang was also about to make his move. Who dares to snatch the eaters that I have my eyes on? Little did they know. From the other side of the swamp, a figure quickly flew over. Su Fang and Baby Snoring were surprised that there was still a cultivator in this dangerous place. They looked over and saw that it was a figure with demonic chi. It was a demonic cultivator. They were in trouble. Why was there a demonic cultivator here? Baby Snoring transmitted his voice from the back of the cave. Leave first. The demonic cultivator must have had his eyes on these eaters since a long time ago. However, that demonic shadow was like black smoke that rolled across the forest. A middle-aged demonic cultivator in a black robe came flying over with his sword. I have my eyes on these 4 eaters since a long time ago. You're courting death. Leave quickly. I will hold this person back. In the dark, Baby Snoring's primordial spirit exploded. A divine aura spread out. Flying star killing sword, kill! Ha! The demonic shadow was less than 10 feet away from Su Fang. With such speed and divine aura, he could kill Su Fang in the next second. Virtual immortals were helpless in front of such a demonic cultivator. Clang! A wave of sword chi appeared in front of the demonic shadow. It created a whirlpool of sword chi that collided with the demonic chi. A large amount of starlight divine aura caused the demonic chi to stop 30 feet away from Su Fang. Su Fang's defense was shattered by the residual power of the devil chi. The silver moon immortal armor displayed an astonishing effect at this moment, causing the residual power of the devil chi to dissipate. However, a lot of the skin on his arms and face were torn apart, revealing shocking flesh and blood. If not for Baby Snoring's sword art clashing with the demonic chi in time, Su Fang would have died under the demonic cultivator's aura. Chi! He immediately turned around and flew into the forest on his sword. Glancing back from the corner of his eyes, he saw that demonic expert punching out and shattering the sword arts. His movements were swift and decisive, and he felt that the supreme sword arts from the 9 Heavens Star Palace were nothing but a pile of mud. So, it's a cultivator from the constellation of 9 Heavens. A cave immortal and a virtual immortal. Who do you think you are? The demonic shadow floated in the air and looked at Baby Snoring, who was forced out. Then, he looked at Su Fang's back and said, "Toxic puppets, go." A puff of black smoke came out from the demonic cultivator's palm. The demonic cultivator controlled more than a dozen puppets. Only one of them went after Su Fang. The other puppets went into the fog and surrounded Baby Snoring. Don't even think about asking for help from the constellation of 9 Heavens. The constellation of 9 Heavens is a powerful force, but killing 2 of your disciples is nothing. Whoosh, 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 another wave of sword chi exploded around Baby Snoring. He held the flying sword in his hand and activated the superior grade Tao artifact's divine aura. For a cave immortal to have such a good superior grade Tao artifact, you must be a disciple from the constellation of 9 Heavens. You must have a lot of treasures. If you want to take my treasures, let's see if you have what it takes. Baby Snoring controlled his sword and formed a huge circle of sword chi. Worry could be seen on his face as he kept looking at the forest where Su Fang disappeared. Stop looking. If a cave immortal like you can't even get an absolute treasure, let alone a virtual immortal. The demonic cultivator did not show any mercy. After he made a hand seal, he surrounded baby Snoring with demonic poison flames. Swish, deep in the forest. Su Fong, who was running away by himself, stepped on his flying sword and weaved through the branches. He looked behind him and saw a large group of branches being split apart by a puppet in black. The puppet was holding a flying sword, and there was no emotion in its eyes. It was extremely cold. At this moment Luo said to him, "You won't be able to escape like this. That puppet was made by a cave immortal. Its strength and speed are much faster than yours. I think it will catch up to you in 10 breaths' time." Su Fong calmed down and did not panic. He was only nervous. "Yes, that is true. Then I will use my merciless sword spy to kill this puppet. A cave immortal puppet is no match for my merciless sword spy." Illusion fire cloud. He spat out a large amount of immortal fire. At the same time, 14 spirit immortal slaves appeared behind him. They nodded at Su Fong and without saying anything else, they all retreated and formed a circle. Then, they hid in the forest. Whoosh! Su Fong flew into the air as well. Then, 4 flying swords came out from a sword box. They were like 4 sword snakes that slithered in the air. 1 breath. 2 breath. Su Fong could feel the passing of every second. He kept on making hand seals and channeling his true chi into the sword box. The 4 flying swords and the sword box gradually disappeared into the mist. Energy. I think I will use up a lot of energy this time. I wonder if young Master Bao can hold on. It shouldn't be a problem. He shook his head. Right now, he could not afford to be distracted. He had to deal with the urgent situation in front of him first. Only then would he have the right to think about other things. He raised his eyebrows. From the fire cloud, the demonic cultivator puppet broke through. It was like a ferocious tiger coming down from the mountain. Chapter 947. Master. The 14 slaves, who were controlling 14 flying swords and hiding in the depths of the forest, transmitted their thoughts when they saw the demonic puppet charging at them. At the same time, they activated the sword spy sword art. Su Fong absorbed everyone's thoughts and hid the 4 flying swords he was controlling in the shadows. At this moment, in front of the demonic puppet that had shattered the fiery clouds, he was just a lamb waiting to be cut into pieces. 10 zhang, 70 zhang, 50 zhang. The demonic puppet's astonishing devilish aura once again attacked Su Fong's defensive aura. The aura was quickly shattered, and he was unable to withstand it with his strength. He could only use the Silver Moon immortal armor to defend, but even so, his body began to tremble from the impact. 30 zhang. His skin began to burn under the impact of the devilish aura, turning into dust. Those who were hiding in the surroundings were shocked when they saw Su Fong's endurance. Emotionless sword formation. With his hands burning with devilish aura and eyes glaring angrily, Su Fongda clapped his hands and activated the emotionless sword spy in its strongest state. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 18 sword beams suddenly drilled out of the void and attacked the demonic puppet, forming a circular flying sword formation. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the 18 sword beams targeted the demonic puppet and attacked together. The surrounding vast forest shook and churned. Boom! The sword beams were blinding, and the sword's splendor exploded. The demonic puppet was like a flaming man, exploding into pieces. The 18 sword beams dispersed and returned to the periphery, floating fiercely. As for the center, the demonic puppet turned into burning devilish aura fragments. Even the flying swords were damaged, leaving behind burning devilish flames. Su Fong stared blankly at the scene before him. In the blink of an eye, a cave immortal demonic puppet had died under the emotionless sword spy. So powerful! All that was left was murmuring in his heart. Luo Zai said from the depths, "The sword spy is one of the strongest offensive treasures in this great world." This is just a low-level sword spy. I reckon there are some very powerful sword spies that have been passed down, especially those sword cultivator factions. I reckon they all have very powerful sword spies. Once those sword spies are activated, there will be a wave of flying swords in the void, destroying anything. Hee, I don't have any hopes for those powerful sword spies. Being able to use this heartless sword spy is already pretty good. Consumes too much true chi. The most important thing for you now is to break through. Break through again and think of ways to quickly become a spirit immortal or cave immortal. In the great world, cave immortals are just ant. I can't just run away like this. Under the demonic flames, the heartless sword spy sucked in the 18 flying swords and turned them into a foot-long box, which then drilled into Su Fang's palm. The 14 slaves also disappeared into thin air. Su Fang was stuck in a dilemma. Behind him was Baby Snoring, who was trapped by the Demon Master. His life would be in danger if he went up against the Demon Master. If he left on his own now, he might not be able to gain Baby Snoring's trust in the future. That was one of the reasons. Even though Baby Snoring had been using him all this while, he had never treated him like a servant. If he turned a deaf ear to him and left, he would probably feel guilty for the rest of his life. While he was hesitating, Law slowly analyzed, "You should consider it more thoroughly. You need to have a foothold in the constellation of 9 heavens. I think it's better for you to take the risk and deal with the Demon Master. Moreover, that young master has a decent defensive treasure, so he won't be killed that easily. Who knows, there's always a way out. If you give him a hand at this juncture, he'll truly treat you as someone close to him. You'll be able to take advantage of this relationship in the future." Yes, since Huangfu Peak is one of the 9 great dojos, I can directly strengthen myself from Huangfu Peak. I'll make good use of this relationship to make it easier for me to cultivate in Huangfu Palace. Chi. Without another word, he turned around and flew back in the direction he came from. He really wasn't afraid of death. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be so crazy as to return to their death. Activating the Heartless Sword Spy drains a lot of my energy. It's better to activate the Blood Ghost True Demon and use the demonic poison to deal with the Demon Master first. After passing through a large number of trees, Su Fang gradually came up with a plan. Then, the Leech King suddenly appeared. Su Fang dived into the Leech King's big mouth. The Leech King then jumped into the swamp and approached the depths of the swamp. Through the Leech King's eyes, Su Fang saw waves of demonic flames in front of him. After a while, he arrived at the edge of the burning demonic flames. He saw the demonic expert activating a large amount of demonic flames and the surrounding puppets continuously shooting out demonic poison flames to burn a big bell. The bell was naturally activated by Baby Snoring. He was hiding within it. It was obvious that with such a treasure, the demonic expert couldn't deal with it for the time being. Looking deeper, the 4 monsters were guarding the entrance of the cave and didn't participate in the attack. The 4 monsters probably only had the strength of a cave immortal. They weren't as terrifying as the gigantic gluttonous devil he saw in the winged serpent's nest. That gigantic gluttonous devil was unknown how terrifying it was. Even the countless winged serpents were terrifying. The demonic expert was a middle-aged man. His cultivation wasn't very strong. He was only slightly stronger than Baby Snoring. The main thing was that the power of the demonic path suppressed the power of the righteous path. In this wasteland, he had the geographical advantage. The expert suddenly smiled. "Kid, surrender. Although your treasure is powerful, if this goes on, you will be poisoned by the demonic poison. Sooner or later, you will die. If you come out now, I can still save you. I won't kill you." Poisoned by the demonic poison? Su Fang was very worried. Not every cultivator had a hard time neutralizing the demonic poison. Although there were antidotes, they could only suppress a portion of the poison. Most of the poison would slowly invade the heart and spleen. You won't come out even if you beat me to death. Do you think I'm a fool? You tricked me into coming out, and you were kind enough to let me go? If you have the ability, then break my Dharma treasure. You're just a little stronger than me, and in this great world, you're not that powerful. If it weren't for the devilish poison, I wouldn't be afraid of you. You can't absorb spiritual energy as you wish here, and if you continue to exhaust yourself like this, you won't be able to live until I'm killed by the devilish poison. Young Master Baby Snoring is acting like a young master at a time like this. However, it's still effective. Su Fong in the Leech King's body was thinking of a way to help Baby Snoring escape. Looking at the current situation, the demonic expert couldn't do anything to Baby Snoring for now. However, Baby Snoring couldn't escape either. If this continued, Baby Snoring would definitely be the one at a disadvantage. If I can catch this expert off guard and injure him severely, or make him unable to control the puppet, Baby Snoring will be able to escape from the bell. At least, he can escape. After an hour, Su Fong finally activated the token. Suddenly, Baby Snoring's surprised laughter could be heard. I told you my brother wouldn't really escape. Haha, but I have to think of a way to deal with this demon. Su Fong anxiously said, Boss, I'll think of a way to use you to suppress those demonic beasts. Chu? Xian Jun? Di? Yu Chuozheng? Chang Shua Xie? Guang Guang? Destroy Jiebu Fan Alliance? You? Xiang Sha? Ing Yu? Slowly you. You can use those demonic beasts? Poke Alpha you. My natal treasure has the ability to suppress demonic beasts. Brother Bao, don't worry. Even if I can't kill him, I can still injure him. If I can injure him, I can use my flying sword to kill him. After killing him, I'll release the blood demon True Demon's poison. I'll let the poison attack him first, then use demonic beasts? Poke Alpha Kudi? Mei Jing? Elegant and brilliant. Alright. I'll wait for your good news. After killing him, we can then enter the treasure trove and dig for treasures. Now that Su Fong and Baby Snort had experienced and gotten used to each other, they were no longer as fearful of danger as before. Instead, they had gained the courage to take risks. Gui. Su Fong immediately let the Leech King get closer. With the help of the surging sewage, they gradually arrived below the demon. Separated by a layer of sewage, he activated the blood demon True Demon and released demonic chi from his golden core origin. A wave of demonic chi slowly emerged from the surging sewage and rose into the air. Fortunately, it was demonic chi. The demon was releasing demonic flames to attack, and could only sense other auras. However, the demonic chi would not be on guard. When the demonic chi merged with the demon's surroundings and was absorbed by him to replenish his strength, some special blood chi also merged with the demonic chi and surged upwards. At this moment, Su Fong activated his natal treasure, the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, causing more than 10 demonic beasts to appear inside it. What do you mean by that? Po? Sang? Leader Coward Polonium? Then, he took out a flying sword from the merciless sword spy and passed it through the Leech King's mouth. It was slowly surrounded by demonic chi and floated in the sewage. More than 30 big goblin with the strength of a spirit immortal or cave immortal poured their strength into the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, which was equivalent to merging with Su Fong's body. Zzz. Just as Su Fong was accumulating strength, the demonic blood chi was around the expert. After he expended a large amount of his true chi, it began to absorb the natural spiritual chi in the surrounding air. Naturally, the demonic blood chi was absorbed into his body. Suddenly, a corrosive force appeared around his body, causing the expert of the demonic path to be distracted. Swish! It was also at this moment that a flying sword surged from below. Like mud, it shot out from the muddy water, leaving behind a sword mark. The expert of the demonic path, who was only 50 feet tall, was floating in midair. He felt a strange force in his body and suddenly felt a threat descending. Just as he lowered his head, he immediately released a shocking defense. Bang! The superior-grade merciless flying sword also hit the demonic chi defense that had just condensed. Most of it shattered in an instant, and the flying sword almost pierced the expert of the demonic path. However, the expert reacted in time. He leaped into the air, staggered, and nimbly dodged the flying sword. However, the force of the sword also sent him flying. After all, it was a superior-grade Dao artifact for a sneak attack. In addition, every flying sword of the merciless sword spy was extraordinary and came from an ancient treasure. The sword chi itself was very sharp. Boom! The burning demonic flames at the sides suddenly collapsed. The surrounding puppets were sent flying. It turned out that the bell's aura had suddenly exploded. Baby Snoring grabbed the bell from within and controlled the flying sword. His entire body was emitting black demonic smoke as he angrily flew towards Su Fong. He actually wasn't trying to escape. Baby Snoring arrived beside Su Fong and patted Su Fong. Then, he activated a bell magic treasure, the Xian Guang, to protect his surroundings. The flying sword in his hand flew out, and layers of sword chi suddenly exploded. He took advantage of the opportunity to attack the expert of the demonic path. Now it's our turn to deal with you. Swish, swish, swish. The sword art from the constellation of 9 heavens displayed a terrifying offensive power. The sword chi rings were like the rings of light released by the rising sun. With this kind of momentum, they directly attacked the expert of the demonic path. You're all courting death. The expert of the demonic path was unable to restrain his anger. Boom, boom, boom. He grabbed a patch of demonic flames and fiercely collided with the sword chi rings in midair. One moment it was fierce, the next it was dodged. Blood poison. Su Fong condensed another patch of blood poison. Along with the demonic chi and sword chi, it suddenly surrounded the expert of the demonic path from all directions. A poisonous flame burned from the demonic chi of the expert of the demonic path. He ferociously shouted in surprise, "Poison is impossible. This is demonic poison. How can you control demonic poison?" Chapter 948. So what if it's demonic poison? Since I'm not afraid of your demonic poison, why are you still so proud of yourself? Baby Snoring couldn't stop laughing when he heard the demonic cultivator's scream and his shocked expression. He hurriedly activated the high-grade flying sword in his hand and created another layer of sword aura. Several layers of sword aura exploded continuously, destroying the demonic aura. Can we kill him with the demonic poison? Baby Snoring secretly asked Su Fong. He was shocked. It seemed like he didn't expect Su Fong to be able to use the demonic poison to deal with such a powerful expert. Su Fong continued to control the demonic poison, but the demonic cultivator was now on guard. This person's skills are profound. The main reason is that my blood ghost true demon's realm is too low. Although the demonic poison is powerful, I can't use more of it. Therefore, I can only poison him. It's impossible to kill him with the poison. Since we can't kill him with the demonic poison, we're now evenly matched with him. We don't have to be afraid of him. We still have to be careful. The demonic cultivators are powerful. Shadow Lightning Blade. Don't say it. Su Fong was right. The demonic cultivator was poisoned and was far from being Baby Snoring's opponent. However, he suddenly took out a demonic weapon. Demonic weapons were treasures that were specially made for demonic cultivators. First, a burst of demonic aura burned around the demonic cultivator to deal with the sword aura. Then, from his palm, a shocking lightning bolt flashed. It was a type of black lightning. Seeing this, Baby Snoring was shocked. Oh no, this person actually has a demonic weapon. It seems like he's from a true demonic cultivator. Normally, demonic cultivators would use righteous treasures. Only the disciples of a true demonic cultivator would have a demonic weapon. Although there are many demonic weapons, only true demonic cultivators would have them. It also represents their status. I didn't expect a cave immortal like you to be so knowledgeable. The demonic cultivator was also surprised. It seems like you're not an ordinary disciple in the constellation of 9 heavens. Although I'm not a demonic cultivator, I accidentally obtained this demonic weapon from a demonic cultivator, the Shadow Lightning Blade. The Devil Path Master revealed a sinister smile, as if he had grabbed a devil saber that was releasing black smoke from his hand. This demonic artifact looked similar to an ordinary treasured saber. However, it burned with demonic flames and carried with it a bloody stench. There was also a shocking aura of darkness. It was completely different from a magic treasure of the righteous Tao. Kill. Then, he soared into the air, his feet emitting an astonishing amount of demonic energy. The demonic path expert took advantage of the momentum and chopped down on the sword light circle. CICI with just one saber strike, Shaochen sent out a demonic chi saber light made of black lightning. When it landed in the circle of light, it tore a hole in the circle of light. Taking advantage of the momentum, he slashed out a hole in the other sword chi halos. The Devil Dao expert wielded the Devil Dao, unexpectedly killing his way forward step by step. Cough, cough. Baby Snoring was drenched in cold sweat. He glared at the master and then looked at Su Fang, who was struggling and unable to attack. He gritted his teeth and took out his elixir. Spirit strengthening and vitality concentrating elixir. The Devil Dao expert was proud. What a good elixir! I've heard of this elixir before. I heard that it's a self-created elixir from the constellation of 9 heavens. You're not simple. If I kill you, the elixir will be mine. You know a lot about the constellation of 9 heavens. That's right, that's right. In the Huang Zhe astral realm, there are many disciples from the constellation of 9 heavens training. Some come in batches and some come one by one. Some die tragically in my hands and some die by accident. I met them. Furthermore, the Huang Zhe astral realm is not too far away from the constellation of 9 heavens. I've also heard a lot about the legends of the Star Palace. Humph, humph. Baby Snoring was so angry that he activated his immortal power again. The immortal sword in his hand continuously released sword techniques, as well as layers of sword seals. He then sent a voice transmission to Su Fang. This demon is very powerful. His cultivation level is higher than mine, and he has a demonic artifact. If we can't hold on any longer, why don't we escape? Escape. Su Fang was still showing off his strength just now, and thought that he would be able to determine the victor between him and the demon. Su Fang glanced at him, but did not agree. The demon has been poisoned. Although we can control it, his skin is still being corroded by the demonic poison. Boss, as long as we persist, he will definitely give up. If we can't, then the treasures in the treasure ground will belong to him. We'll have worked for nothing, and we'll even suffer such a great loss. But this person's demonic aura is getting more and more abundant. Baby Snoring wiped his sweat and was stunned. He did not expect that Su Fang, a virtual immortal, would not be afraid of the demon, while he, a cave immortal, was already thinking of retreating. I have confidence in my demonic poison. Furthermore, if we can't hold on any longer, we can use our aura to fool him. On the other hand, he can also take out his demonic artifact to fool us. Alright, let's go all out today. In this tug-of-war between life and death, the difference between Baby Snoring and Su Fang was very obvious. One was a young master, who had never experienced life and death cultivation. However, the other was a person who ascended from the lower domain, who climbed out from a pile of corpses. Although he was an ant in the great world, his courage was heaven-defying. Chi. The demonic cultivator wielded his lightning demonic saber as if he was cutting through all obstacles. He cut through the layers of sword aura that Baby Huangfu used. It was very impressive. Baby Snoring was the grandson of the Huangfu Peak Elder, Baby Huangfu. What did this mean? The young master had plenty of pills. Baby Huangfu was no longer the Baby Snoring of the past. He did not have the playboy temperament of a young master, nor was he arrogant or fearful. He had forgotten everything. He took out the spirit-strengthening and core condensation pills and shared them with Su Fang. Then, he used more sword arrays and pressed them forward layer by layer. "Master, do you want me to help you?" At this moment, in the sky not far away from the swamp that was engulfed in a destructive aura, two men in black were floating in the sky. "There's no need. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm already changing." The men in black seemed to be able to use their divine powers to see through the star fog and see the battle in the swamp. Cuckoo, cuckoo, the stalemate lasted for more than 2 hours. Neither side had the upper hand. Baby Huangfu had pills, and he looked exactly like Su Fang, ready to fight to the death. On the other hand, the demonic cultivator who had swallowed the immortal pills and the blood poison in his body was getting worse. He suddenly made a strange sound. After Su Fang heard it, he realized that the 4 Gorb demons behind him were moving. It turned out that the demonic cultivator was communicating with the Gorb demons. He was probably asking for their help. When Baby Huangfu heard this, he did not say anything. He grabbed at the air and took out his strongest defensive artifact, the bell. At the same time, the 4 Gorb demons also left the cave. They lay on the rocks and stood upright. They opened their mouths and spat out mouthfuls of demonic poison at the two. The demonic cultivator sneered, "I've been feeding these 4 Gorb demons for thousands of years. I killed hundreds of cultivators before they started to accept me. I can't let you 2 bastards ruin my plan." Baby Huangfu was not convinced. "I heard that only true demonic cultivators are qualified to have Gorb demons. Looks like you're just a loose demon. You can only catch Gorb demons in the wilderness to cultivate. But I have an artifact. These Gorb demons are not that strong. How can they deal with us? You have a tough mouth." The two sides started another round of tug-of-war. However, the 4 Gorb demons attacked them from behind, spitting out demonic poison. The two of them also had a defensive artifact, the bell. They released a defensive aura to block the demonic poison. Sure enough, after a stalemate, the 4 Gorb demons could not help the demonic cultivator deal with Baby Huangfu and Su Fang. On the other hand, the demonic cultivator had used up a lot of his energy. Most of his skin had rotted. Remember. Of course, Baby Huangfu and Su Fang could not take it either. Especially Baby Huangfu. At this moment, his body and mind were about to collapse. Unexpectedly, it was the demonic cultivator who gave up first. He suddenly retreated and grabbed a large amount of demonic aura. He glared at the two of them unwillingly and turned to enter the depths of the fog world. They really came suddenly and left suddenly. Usually, this kind of person was the most terrifying existence. They would take advantage of any opportunity to get everything. They would definitely use thunder and thunder methods to get everything. If they could not get it, they would decisively give up after weighing the pros and cons. Baby Huangfu suddenly stared blankly ahead, leaving behind a cloud of demonic aura. "Are you leaving or not? This young master will peel off your skin and kill you with a slap." Baby Huangfu was not satisfied. Of course, he was not convinced after suffering such a big loss. Su Fang turned and said very seriously, "Brother Bao, suppress these Gorb demons. We can enter the depths of the cave to get the treasure. Otherwise, that demon will go to find reinforcements and come back. You and I will be in trouble." Huangfu Baobao turned around and struck out seals one after another. He was so tired that he almost fainted. However, in front of Su Fang, he straightened his back. "All right, my precious bell, go." Whoosh. Just then, the 4 Gorb demons spat out more demonic poison, which was scattered by the bell. At this moment, the bell was like a cloud. It suddenly rolled above the Gorb demons, and a large amount of Dharma treasure's divine power descended. Su Fang also activated his life-bound Dharma treasure. Xian Wang's 6 Paths Pagoda. Clap, clap, clap. The 4 Gorb demons were trapped by the bell's divine power in the blink of an eye. They were not as fast as the Dharma treasure. After being trapped, they either spat out demonic poison or opened their mouths to attack the bell. How could ordinary gluttonous demons like them surpass an extraordinary Tao artifact? Any attack would be ineffective. The bell remained motionless. Suppress! Seeing that the Gorb demons were still struggling and attacking, baby Huangfu was infuriated. He turned his hand and pressed down. The bell suddenly smashed towards the 4 Gorb demons. After a thunder-like vibration, the 4 Gorb demons spat out blood. Some sword chi also exploded from the bell, causing the Gorb demons to scream in pain. It turned out that the bell had such an ability. Taking advantage of this opportunity, while the 4 Gorb demons were injured and could no longer attack, he activated the Xian Wang's 6 Paths Pagoda. Then, waves of divine power from his essence soul attacked the 4 Gorb demons. Baby Huangfu saw that Su Fang directly released his essence soul to suppress the 4 Gorb demons with his essence immortal cultivation. He was so shocked that he sucked in a cold breath. Wow, your essence soul is so powerful. It has already reached the level of a spirit immortal. The Gorb demons' essence souls are not that powerful. You can suppress them. Previously, in the lower realm, I mainly cultivated the yang immortal and physical body. However, this is nothing in the great world. I am only a essence immortal. Thank you, boss, for giving me these 4 Gorb demons. After half an hour, the 4 Gorb demons finally became obedient under the attacks of Dharma treasures and essence soul. They were no longer as ferocious as before. One by one, they were sucked into the Xian Wang 6 Paths Pagoda by Su Fang. Just by entering the Xian Wang 6 Paths Pagoda, all the slaves, demon immortals, and big goblin were scared out of their wit. Just a dozen desolates? Hurried Huan Iridium? Fat resistant lining the Gorb demons had the strength of a cave immortal. Most importantly, they were poisonous and had a shocking demonic aura. Who would dare to provoke such monsters? The sharpness of their teeth was no less than a mid-grade Tao artifact. What big goblin could take a few bites from them? Gui Gui. Alright, I will let you absorb the Gorb demon's blood poison and give them to you for cultivation. As long as you are happy, as long as you are happy. At that moment, the blood ghost true demon in the depths of his body was actually roaring. Su Fang knew what it wanted and immediately guided it into the Xian Wang 6 Paths Pagoda. It turned out that the Gorb demons had attracted the blood ghost true demon. They were all monsters, but the blood ghost true demon was even more extraordinary. It wanted 4 Gorb demons for cultivation. Chapter 949. Su Fang couldn't bear to part with them. The 4 gluttonous demons were very powerful. If he used them well, they could deal with spirit immortals. As long as they weren't cave immortals, he could deal with them. Even normal cave immortals could survive. But if he gave them to baby snoring to cultivate, things would be different. What if such a terrifying existence ate the gluttonous demons one by one? The gluttonous demons could eat anything, and so could the blood wraith true demon. Thinking so much couldn't solve the problem. Since the blood wraith true demon was so insistent, Su Fang let it cultivate on its own. What would happen in the future would be up to fate. Let's go, let's dig for treasures, haha. At this moment, baby Huangfu rolled up his sleeves. After a life and death battle, even if he didn't have the energy, he immediately became energetic when he thought about treasures. Su Fang let the blood wraith true demon enter the Xian Wang 6 Paths Pagoda and began to control the 4 gluttonous demons. Looking at the cave entrance, he immediately flew over with baby Huangfu. When they landed, they saw that the inside of the cave was deep and dark. More than 100 feet in, they could see many human remains. It was extremely smelly. There was also an unnatural cave that seemed to be a training ground. They didn't know if that demonic expert had entered, but from the looks of it, he was still taming the gluttonous demons. He shouldn't have entered. Whoosh whoosh. Activating the Silver Moon immortal armor, he followed behind baby Huangfu. The two of them quickly reached the depths of the cave. It was indeed a training ground cave. However, this cave was horizontal and slightly slanted. It had probably sunk into the mud and lost its balance. There were too many corpses, and it was hard to count. There was also some sewage. Baby Huangfu hurriedly activated his storage ring, absorbing the sewage, corpses, and bones into it. He wanted to search for treasures in this cave. After about an hour, the inside of the cave was empty. A huge cave appeared in front of them. In the corner, they found a few treasures, but there was nothing else. Strange, this wasn't a treasure ground. Could it be that the treasures were taken away in advance? Baby Huangfu was so angry that he stomped his feet. However, Su Fang didn't think so. If this was a treasure ground, then it was a joke. In the middle of the swamp, there was a cave dwelling. Could it be considered a treasure trove? If that was the case, every cultivator would be able to find it. Whatever treasures there were, they would have long been gone. The cultivator who left behind the treasure map had also taken away the treasures at that time. Why did he say that this was a treasure trove? After thinking about it for a moment, Su Fang felt that it was very likely that there was another dimension within the cave. There was bound to be some sort of treasure somewhere. In the past, the cultivators had discovered something, and thus left behind a treasure trove. Most likely, there were other reasons that prevented them from taking the treasure away. As for the reason, it wasn't important. What was important was that there should be treasures here. The two of them were unwilling to give up. They split up and searched every nook and cranny. Su Fang also used his great perfection ability and came to the center. He saw some statues and stone benches, and he also used his great perfection ability. When he gradually released his great perfection ability and searched for a while, he still couldn't find any treasures. He only felt that there seemed to be some remnant aura of treasures in this cave, but it was very weak. Just when he was so confused and disappointed, Law suddenly spoke. There is indeed a space here that contains treasures. You didn't sense it because this cave dwelling is a broken mobile Dao field. This is a mobile cave dwelling. Su Fang had always believed Law's words, but he didn't expect to be in a mobile cave dwelling at this time. The reason why you didn't feel the space of the magic treasure is because there are remnants of the aura of the magic treasure everywhere. Don't you think it's strange? It's because this is a dilapidated mobile cave dwelling. It's estimated that before it fell into the swamp, this mobile cave dwelling had restrictions, and then it was hidden in these rocks. Those cultivators couldn't open the restrictions and could only draw a map. But soon after it fell into this swamp, the restrictions gradually shattered, and the mobile cave dwelling gradually dissipated. Law explained carefully and pointed the location to Su Fang. It turned out that on a stone wall there seemed to be nothing, but very subtle carvings could be seen. According to Law's guidance, he called the baby Huangfu and injected his immortal power into the stone wall. Crack, crack, the 10 feet wide wall began to shake, and some immortal marks began to appear. The marks were no longer dazzling. It seemed that as the mobile cave dwelling was destroyed, these mysterious immortal formations were also disappearing. It's hidden really well. The baby Huangfu waited for a moment. Seeing that the stone wall was still showing immortal formations, he took a step forward and slapped it. Rumble, with just one palm, the stone wall was shattered. A relatively large secret room suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. The baby Huangfu proudly shouted, "Don't be so gentle, you're the best at digging treasures." The two of them hurriedly released their true fire and walked inside. In the secret room there was soon light. One by one, treasure boxes appeared in front of the two of them. There were about 100 treasure boxes. They couldn't wait to see. In each treasure box there were all kinds of spiritual items, as well as special raw stones, ores, and other treasures. There weren't a lot of immortal pills, but there were some top-grade immortal essence pills. There weren't any peerless Tao artifacts, but there were quite a few high-grade Tao artifacts. They were all high-quality items. There were more than 20 high-grade Tao artifacts and a few middle-grade Tao artifacts. Some extraordinary immortal pills were immediately collected by the baby Huang Fu and split with Su Fang. He also gave half of the Tao artifacts to Su Fang. Even if Su Fang didn't want them, he insisted on stuffing them into his hands. These pills and Tao artifacts were enough to make some big goblins stronger. There were also some primal stones, immortal stones, and spiritual items that were evenly distributed. This shouldn't be a cave dwelling of a cave immortal, but a cave immortal that was close to the level of Huang Fu. It was a mobile cave dwelling left behind by a cave immortal. A mobile cave dwelling was also a treasure that could be used in this wasteland. Unfortunately, it was already destroyed. There were also a few secret manuals, but unfortunately, they couldn't compare to the 9 heavenly stars minor art. However, they were still taken by Su Fang. The two of them quickly left the cave. When they flew out of the cave, their first thought was to leave the 100 Rivers swamp. They didn't have time to carefully check the treasures, nor did they rest. They dragged their tired bodies and flew out of the depths of the swamp. They were worried that the demonic experts would take revenge, and they were also worried that Fei Tian and his wife would find them. The two of them didn't dare to be careless. After nearly 3 months, they finally flew out of the 100 Rivers swamp. Moreover, they were almost at the center of the desolate swamp star realm. After finding a canyon, the two of them created a barrier and hid inside. "I'm so tired. I've never been so tired. Don't disturb me. I want to sleep." After setting up the barrier, they hid their flying swords nearby. Baby Snoop swallowed dozens of immortal essence pills and a spirit-strengthening and essence-condensing pill in one go. Then, it yawned and fell asleep. He was really sleeping, not sitting cross-legged. It was just that he was sleeping on top of a large number of immortal stones. Huff huff, in less than 10 breaths, this guy started snoring. Now, Su Fang knew how baby snoring came about. But that wasn't the main point. Su Fang saw a cultivator with a strong background. He was actually able to increase his cultivation and recover his energy just by sleeping. Because he was sleeping on top of a large number of immortal stones and swallowed many immortal pills, it meant that the immortal pills were digested while he was sleeping. His body was absorbing the immortal energy from the immortal stones, slowly bringing energy to his body. In addition, he also had a peerless treasure like the bell in his body. If it was an ordinary cultivator, would they be able to do it? Would they have such abundant resources? To be able to cultivate while sleeping was very powerful. Su Fang didn't have time to sleep. Even if he had resources now, he had to seize the time. Not everyone could be compared to baby Huang Fu. He immediately swallowed the immortal essence pills. He was currently taking low-grade immortal pills. He couldn't completely digest mid-grade immortal pills. After swallowing the pills, he activated the world fragment and began to absorb the weak world energy in the natural aura. He also had to purify the star sand. When he reached a normal cultivation state, Su Fang's tired body and primordial spirit began to recover along with the surging magic power and true qi. At this time, he began to carefully look at the dozens of treasures. Of course, what he cared about was the void dust cauldron he obtained from killing the big goblin. He always wanted to fuse with it, but now was not the time. He took out the dozens of treasures. The magic treasures were all high-grade Tao artifacts. The immortal pills and spiritual items were all high-grade and above treasures. Any one of them could be exchanged for a high-grade Dao artifact of good quality. But Su Fang wouldn't exchange them for a Dao artifact. Pills of this level were precious. A young immortal entered Xian Wang's Six Paths Pagoda and gathered a portion of the Big Goblin. Except for the Undying Tortoise, Vermilion Emperor, Green Feather King, and Bai Ling, the other big goblins were all given a high-grade Dao artifact of excellent quality. He also left a high-grade Dao artifact for the Blood Wraith True Demon. He was really generous. With so many high-grade Dao artifacts, it was enough for him to pay a high price to buy connections in the constellation of 9 heavens and open the door to becoming a strong expert. But he didn't need that. Oh, what's wrong? After distributing the Dao artifacts to the big goblin, Su Fang helped the big goblin refine the Dao artifact. Suddenly, he felt a very evil and bloody aura in his mind. It came from a nearby space. He looked over and saw 4 Gorb demons. The Gorb demons were lying still, but the Blood Wraith True Demon was nowhere to be seen. Su Fang immediately sensed the aura of the Blood Wraith True Demon in the body of the topmost Gorb demon. Before he could understand what was going on, the gluttonous demon opened its mouth and viciously bit the head of the gluttonous demon beside it. Puff, puff. Right in front of Su Fang's eyes, the Gorb demon swallowed its companions whole. Before Su Fang could react, this ogre demon actually dared to open its mouth again after digesting for a moment and savagely swallowed another ogre demon into its stomach. Then, the 3rd Gorb demon became a meal on a plate. Only 1 Gorb demon with the aura of the Blood Wraith True Demon was left. Then, Su Fangda measured the Gorb demon. The stronger the aura of the Gorb demon, the more it came from the Blood Wraith True Demon. It also included the demonic qi and special poisonous gas it breathed out. Qi. The Gorb demon's body began to tremble. It painfully opened its mouth, and 2 incomparably sharp claws extended from its mouth. Then came its arms. Then came the bloody Blood Wraith True Demon. It looked like it had just been born from a stone golem's placenta. When its head appeared, Su Fang was given a fright when he saw its chest. Its chest was actually a Gorb demon's mouth. Although it wasn't as frightening as the Gorb demons, it was still terrifying. Then, he slowly left the Gorb demon's body. The Gorb demon's flesh and blood seemed to have been sucked away by the Blood Wraith True Demon. It gradually shrank until only its skin was left. When he stood up, the Gorb demon had breathed its last. As for the Blood Wraith True Demon, was it still the Blood Wraith True Demon? Although its body was about the same as before, it was much more slender, and its upper body was especially muscular. That Gorb demon's mouth on its chest was especially frightening. Su Fang couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. He was pleasantly surprised. This kind of transformation is good. You probably have the Gorb demon's abilities. From now on, you're no longer a Blood Wraith, but a Gorb demon. A Gorb demon. Chapter 950. The ghoul had probably just devoured the gluttonous demon and had yet to recover its vitality. After standing for a while, it was already panting from exhaustion. Su Fang immediately took out several spiritual items and immortal pills for it to devour. The remaining winged serpent's corpse was also given to the ghoul to devour. The Blood Wraith True Demon used to be in human form, but if it continued like this, it would probably become a monster in the future. Its blood poison now had the addition of the gluttonous demon's poison. After the fusion, its poison was unimaginable. Moreover, when it devoured things, if it ate too slowly, it would put the winged serpent's corpse into its mouth. It ate with a crunching sound that made Su Fang's scalp tingle. The mouth that belonged to the gluttonous demon seemed to not be used to it. In short, it would still need some time to adapt to its new body. After a long time, Su Fang and Su Fang discussed the ghoul's transformation while cultivating. Luo Yu analyzed and slowly said, "This blood wraith was originally refined by human cultivators using evil methods. It fused with many powers. Later, it fused with you. Your blood contains the power of great perfection. This is a key point. A great perfection body will undergo many changes. You should have thought of this. For example, your great perfection body was fused with the Black Lotus true body. There is also the nightmare blood transformation. This way, your great perfection power is even more shocking. The same is true for the blood wraith true demon. He fused with your blood, and later, you fused with different powers. Now that he met the gluttonous demon, he fused with the special power of the gluttonous demon's body to obtain this new body. All of this is due to the great perfection body. Luo, as you say, the great perfection power is indeed extraordinary. But I don't think it's that extraordinary, except for the recovery power of the body. Then you don't know how lucky you are. Think about the Black Lotus true body, blood transformation true body, and the dragon taming wood left arm. They are all built on the foundation of the great perfection body. That is why they are so extraordinary today. And they will be even more shocking in the future. If you didn't have the great perfection body, even if you fused with the Black Lotus true body and the dragon taming wood left arm, you wouldn't be as powerful as you are now. Hee, it seems that I have amazing abilities that ordinary people don't have. After chatting with Luo Yi, the uneasiness and threat from the desolate land suddenly vanished without a trace. Law praised again, but also with an encouraging tone. If you go on like this, the great perfection ability will be even more amazing. In the future, you will have other physical abilities until your body will surpass human beings and reach the height of mythological beasts. Divine beasts aren't legendary existences. This world is too big. You're just standing at the edge of it. Once you become an expert on the level of the white immortal monarch or proud heaven Changhen, you'll be able to see even deeper into the world. Of course, there are divine beasts. Those divine beasts are known as the strongest existences. At this point, Law looked a little tired and slowly calmed down in the cage. A few years had passed, and Su Fong had been cultivating non-stop. His energy was slowly recovering. In this wasteland world, his cultivation was less than 1/10 of the outside world. Cough, cough. Baby Huang Fu suddenly sneezed and woke up with a jolt. His mouth was screaming that he was going to kill them. It turned out that black spots and blood spots had appeared on his skin again. It was the demonic poison that was affecting his body, and it was affecting his recovery. Su Fong used his ghost-eating ability. When baby Huang Fu sat up and began to cultivate, they worked together. He forced the devil poison out of his body as much as possible, while Su Fong used his ability to absorb the devil poison into his palm. About 5 years later, the two of them finally recovered. Using a map, they found themselves between the 100 Rivers Swamp and the Phoenix Transformation Canyon. The Phoenix Transformation Canyon was near the center of the desolate marsh star realm. It was even larger than the 100 Rivers Swamp and more dangerous. At the same time, it was rumored that many ancient magical treasures would appear here. After discussing for a while, the two of them felt that they couldn't go back to the 100 Rivers Swamp. They could only go from the edge of the Phoenix Transformation Canyon to the outer perimeter. If they didn't want to take the risk, they could only go from the edge of the Phoenix Transformation Canyon to the 100 Rivers Swamp and save half the time. Furthermore, the two of them both wanted to go to the Phoenix Transformation Canyon to take a look. If they were lucky, they could obtain an ancient magical treasure. Thinking about how powerful the Heartless Sword Spy was, it was an ancient magical treasure. An ancient magical treasure was worth more than 10 high-grade Dao tools. Then they made up their minds. Since they had to go through the Phoenix Transformation Canyon, they would go there to take a look. If they had a chance to find treasures, they would stay there. If not, they would leave the desolate marsh star realm from there. After flying out of the mountain range, there was a large amount of fog in front of them. The fog seemed to cut the mountain range into pieces. It felt like this place was a fragment of a world. From time to time, they would have to enter a fragment's territory. If they wanted to go to the Phoenix Transformation Canyon, Su Fang naturally had to understand the danger zone. He had collected a lot of information before, and after talking with baby Huangfu, he gradually gained a general understanding. The Phoenix Transformation Canyon was very vast. There was a very strange gas inside. Not only did it have a terrifying natural power, but it also didn't dissipate all year round. Entering the Phoenix Transformation Canyon was like entering another world. Many cultivators would get lost inside. The lucky ones could quickly find a way out, but the lucky ones could be trapped for hundreds or thousands of years. Of course, there were also many who died in the danger zone. The legend that interested Su Fang the most was the origin of the Phoenix Transformation Canyon's name. It was said that millions of years ago, the Phoenix Transformation Canyon didn't have a name. It was just a dangerous zone. But one day, many cultivators who were looking for treasures suddenly saw a flaming divine bird flying into the sky. From then on, the canyon was called the Phoenix Transformation Canyon. It was passed down by word of mouth. Even today, this name was on all maps. Whether or not there was a divine bird flying in the sky was unknown. But if there really was a divine bird, then the desolate marsh star realm should have existed for a very long time. After passing through a large number of mountain ranges, they encountered a familiar vast forest. The desolate marsh star realm was too big. There were more than 10 dangerous zones like the 100 Rivers Swamp and the Phoenix Transformation Canyon, not to mention the other big and small danger zones. Many cultivators went in and out of the desolate marsh star realm all year round. Even the experts from the constellation of 9 heavens wouldn't be able to explore the entire desolate marsh star realm in their lifetime. Many maps didn't record the entire desolate marsh star realm clearly. There were still many mysterious places. A year later, the two entered another forest and temporarily chose a valley to rest. Su Fang still wanted to break through in the desolate marsh star realm, but the spirit chi of heaven and earth contained a lot of star sand and various kinds of divine power. It would be difficult for him to break through without a great fortuitous encounter. Baby Huangfu's strength had obviously improved a lot compared to when he first came. This guy was too good at eating. He swallowed all the good pills from time to time. How could his strength not improve? According to baby Huangfu, he was about to break through the cave immortal realm and step into a new realm. After resting for a few days, the two left the valley. They estimated that they would be able to step into the Phoenix Transformation Canyon in a while. However, there was a land of ice and snow in front of them. The coordinates of this snowland were on the map, but it was called the Nameless Snowland. It seemed that a lot of the forest was frozen. When they entered the snowland, it was not like the ruins of the illusory snowland. In the frozen forest, there were still many spaces that were not really frozen. The outside was covered by cold air and star fog. They could only walk inside the frozen forest. What surprised the two was that there was very little star sand in the frozen forest. It was easier for them to absorb natural spirit chi compared to other danger zones. However, there were many demonic immortals in the frozen forest. As they entered the depths of the forest, there was a steaming demonic chi floating in the air, constantly suppressing the two's true chi. Moreover, when they entered the depths of the forest, they found a big goblin resting every few hundred meters. There were probably tens of thousands of big goblins hibernating in this forest. Now, the two of them had to take each step as if they were treading on thin ice. They hid their auras and carefully flashed through the ice and snow and the sea of trees. Looking at the big goblins, they found that some of them were obviously stronger than the cave immortal realm. There was not a single cultivator here. Not even a single expert dared to enter this forest. When they passed by a big goblin covered in wings and less than 10 zhang of ice and snow, Su Fang suddenly stopped baby Huangfu. "Wait! What's wrong? Is there danger?" Startled, baby Huangfu looked around. However, He couldn't see anything. We're in trouble. He couldn't see anything in front of him. However, Su Fang used his great circle ability and saw that all the demonic qi in the surrounding forest was being sucked in. It was gently moving. It couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Only with one's senses could one see the energy tracks in the air. To be able to create such a track meant that there was an expert nearby. The expert was either cultivating while breathing or cultivating while sleeping, just like Baby Huangfu. Baby Huangfu was very anxious. He asked for the reason, but Su Fang also couldn't sense where the monster was. However, they couldn't continue like this. In the end, he gritted his teeth and continued forward. If something really happened, then they could just run away. Humph, this young master has great ambitions. Let's go. Baby Huangfu patted his chest as if he didn't care at all. Whoosh. No matter how light their movements were and how ethereal their breaths were, there would always be some friction between their breaths, causing some subtle movements. However, these movements could only be detected by experts with their senses, or by cultivators like Su Fang who had special senses and world fragment. Somehow, this entire forest was within the breathing range of the big goblin. Unfortunately, they couldn't sense where the big goblin was. Swish, swish, suddenly, Su Fang's hearing and vision could see that the breaths in the depths of the space were jumping. Something was wrong. Su Fang quickly patted Baby Huangfu's shoulder. He immediately came back to his senses and flew out of this special forest with a whoosh. Behind their ears, it was as if someone was speaking from the back of their head. "Two humans, how dare you trespass into our territory? This king is preparing to go to the Phoenix Valley to capture human cultivators. You came at the right time." To Baby Huangfu and Su Fang, this voice was as if the big goblin was right behind their ears. They were so scared that their skin was frozen, and they felt like they were about to fall into a bottomless abyss. They quickly sped up and ran for their lives. Whoosh! In the depths of the frozen forest, the demonic aura suddenly became real. A huge shadow leaped up high, and a large amount of demonic aura began to materialize. From the corner of their eyes, they saw that the demonic aura was in the shape of a toad. Another toad. Do I have a grudge against toads? Toad. Seeing a toad again made Su Fang think of the old toad immortal. This time they were really done for. Toads were powerful, especially when it came to speed. Baby Snoring didn't even have the chance to be afraid this time. He stepped on his flying sword and carried Su Fang as he ran for his life. As for the toad monster, it would probably take some time for it to return to normal. The mass of demonic aura in the shape of a toad roared. Some big goblin in the surroundings could be heard waking up because of this, and it let out a series of cries. Then, a demonic shadow suddenly flashed out from the toad's demonic aura. From the big goblin's shadow, it instantly turned into a young man in a green robe. This young man was so beautiful that he didn't look like a human. He was too seductive, and his skin was fairer than a woman's. His eyebrows were like a woman's, as thin as a crescent moon, and he had an oval face. Chapter 951. The toad monster had suddenly transformed into a handsome man. The entire demonic aura had entered his body. It was obvious that this toad monster was much stronger than the other big goblin. It was probably much stronger than Baby Huangfu. It's here, it's here. It transformed into a human in an instant. Amazing. This toad monster's strength is not only at the cave immortal level, but it has surpassed it. In the depths of the forest 1,000 meters away, a snowflake fell. It turned out to be Huangfu Baobao and Su Fang, who were rushing over on their swords. The two of them looked back at the same time. They could almost see every strand of the toad monster that was 1,000 meters away. What a beautiful human! A big goblin's strength was often determined by how perfect its human form was. Although this big goblin was not perfect, some of its actions and expressions were still rough like the big goblin's. It had such a lifelike human form, which meant that it was also an expert who had transcended the human form for a long time. Swoosh! The toad youth's black robe fluttered and he quickly chased after them. The surrounding forest rustled, and many ice shards and snowflakes fell. Run! Baby Huangfu and Su Fang stepped on their superior-grade immortal swords. One word, run! They ran as far as they could. As they flew, they saw a big goblin that seemed to be about to wake up. The two of them were shocked. However, compared to the toad youth, this big goblin was not scary. The two of them directly flew over the big goblin. When the big goblin opened its eyes, it saw the toad youth in the black robe. The big goblin shrank its body in fear and did not dare to move. It looked at the toad youth who flew over and shouted, "Lu Xiong, why are you chasing after humans here? It has nothing to do with you. Sleep if you have to. They belong to this king." The toad youth said sternly and leaped over. The big goblin hurriedly dodged. "I don't dare to offend a toad like you. Where are you going? You can't escape from this forest." In the blink of an eye, they were in another forest. When the toad youth saw the two figures, he licked his teeth with the tip of his tongue and rushed out again, chasing after them at an astonishing speed. Su Fang used his great perfection ability. He could clearly see the monster toad's every movement and how far it was away. Fortunately, this demon's speed was not too shocking, but it was still slightly faster than them. The big goblin was right. In less than half an hour they would be caught up. What should I do? What a powerful big goblin! Even if I use my precious bell to defend against such a big goblin, I won't be able to defend against it for a lifetime. The baby Huangfu was well aware of the enmity and hatred between the demonic path, monster race, and humans. If they were to encounter such a big goblin, it would be impossible for them to survive. At this moment, Su Fang, who was focused from the state of great perfection, was no longer a follower. It was a matter of life and death. He could not hide anything like he did at the Huangfu dojo. He looked behind him again and said to the baby Huangfu in a low voice, "We will escape as far as we can. In the end, we will fight it out with it. We can't just wait for death. However, we must fly out of this frozen forest. We must fly out of this forest. We don't even know how far it is. Brother Bao, look. This is the territory of the demon race. If we use the bell here and get trapped by the monster toad, we might be able to deal with one big goblin. However, if the other big goblins come, we won't have any chance of survival. No matter what, we have to gather all our means and rush out of this forest. There is a vast expanse outside, and we will have a chance of survival. What you are doing is no different from when I bet on the beast fights at Drifting Cloud Lake." The baby Huangfu's heart sank. Su Fang gritted his teeth. He was also helpless against the young master. "Anyway, Brother Bao, don't worry. If anything happens, I will lure the big goblin away for you. However, this is a matter for the future. For now, you just have to hold on for as long as you can." Boom! Behind them, another large piece of snow fell to the ground. The two of them looked behind them. The monster toad had chased after them. It was less than a kilometer away. Huangfu Baobao was very anxious. Beads of sweat the size of beans flowed down from his brows. His heart was beating non-stop. Ao. The pursuit of the two sides had caused some big goblin to suddenly awaken in this frozen forest. Unfortunately, there was a fierce tiger in front of them. It was really a fierce tiger. It was at least 100 feet tall. However, it had just woken up. When it looked over, it saw Su Fang and baby Huangfu flying over. It immediately looked like a hungry beast. "I have an idea. Brother Bao, let's charge towards that fierce tiger. Aren't we courting death?" The fierce tiger had suddenly awakened. Moreover, it was right in front of them. Baby Huangfu was so scared that he wanted to take a detour to avoid the fierce tiger monster. Su Fang, on the other hand, was very determined. With a loud shout, he rushed towards the tiger. Why? Baby Huang Fu could not understand. Even if they wanted to court death, they could not court death like this. The two of them could not withstand a single bite from the fierce tiger. Although the monster toad is strong and powerful, it cannot be the king of this forest. We can use the big goblin to kill each other and use this to suppress the monster toad. That's a good idea. I will call you boss in the future. A thumb was raised straight in front of Su Fang's eyes. At this moment, Baby Huang Fu's words were sincere. He had already started to rely on Su Fang from the bottom of his heart. It was more of a trust than a dependence. Without trust, there would be no dependence. No, you are Brother Bao. You are the boss. Let's charge over while the fierce tiger is stretching its muscles and bones. It can't use its bare strength in an instant. Go. As Su Fang's eyes lit up, Baby Huang Fu also gained confidence. He clasped his hands together and his true qi suddenly exploded. The flying sword under his feet sped up. At this moment, the fierce tiger raised its body from the ice and snow. The surrounding ice and snow fell from its fur and fell to the ground layer by layer. Courting death. When it looked at the two people, it did not expect them to fly towards it from behind. It began to open its mouth wide, revealing its ferocious teeth. Then, its skin began to burn with demon qi. Crackling sounds came from its joints. Whoosh! Just as the fierce tiger was about to chase after them, a black-robed figure chased after it and roared, "Where did this little cat come from? Get lost for this king!" Little cat, this king is the king of the mountains, little cat. The fierce tiger turned around. It was so angry that its nostrils were spewing demon qi. When it saw the toad youth, it said, "You're the only human. You're sending yourself to the tiger's mouth. Haha, you're courting death." With a cold sneer, the fierce tiger did not chase after Baby Huang Fu and Su Fang. Instead, it opened its mouth angrily and jumped out. It felt like a mountain as it pounced towards the toad youth. But the toad youth was about to be bitten to death. The fierce tiger's teeth were probably as powerful as a Tao artifact. Who would have thought that the toad youth would suddenly change? He jumped from the tiger's teeth and stepped on the tiger's head. With just one step, the tiger monster lost its balance and fell to the ground like the surrounding ice and snow. Roar! After a breath, only the tiger's screams could be heard. Cunning humans! In just a breath's time, the toad youth looked in front of him and saw that the two had moved further away. They were about 3 miles away from each other. He even saw that the Baby Huang Fu and Su Fang were not running towards the empty forest. Instead, they were running towards a big monster that was awakening. The toad youth was a powerful big goblin, and he was blocked by the fierce tiger. He instantly understood why the two did not take the main road. When it sped up a little, it was blocked by another big monster. Although it was easily thrown far away by him, it still delayed it for a while. Next, looking down from the forest, one could see that the ice in the frozen forest would shake or shatter from time to time. Sometimes, a big goblin would be thrown out from the ice. A sword aura leaped over a big goblin. Before the big goblin could understand what was going on, the two of them had already become blurry in the snow. Baby Huang Fu saw the big goblin chasing after them from afar and was very pleased. He beat his chest and patted Su Fang's shoulder. Good idea, good idea. Boss, you are mighty. Much more mighty than me. Although Su Fang relaxed a little, he still understood that this was just a drop in the bucket. You are the boss. You are the Brother Bao. I am just an ordinary virtual immortal disciple. If young mistress and the upper echelons of the family find out about this, they will punish me. Furthermore, with my status, I can't let the young master call me boss. What rules? You have to abide by these damn rules too. When have I ever cared about those rules? Young master, you are the young master. Everyone gives way to you. As for me, although you are protecting me, I am just a disciple with a different surname. I have an idea. Since I am the senior brother and you are the junior brother, based on this relationship, we can become sworn brothers. Yes, sworn brothers. Sworn brothers. Su Fang felt that this was not real. A young master from the constellation of 9 heavens was actually going to become sworn brothers with an ordinary disciple? Yes, sworn brothers. In the future, you will be the boss, and I will be the junior brother. Baby Huang Fu shouted anxiously. He could not wait to become sworn brothers. No, this is even more impossible. You have cultivated for 1,000 years, and I have only cultivated for a few hundred years. You are the boss, and I am the junior brother. You have said everything. I have cultivated for 1,000 years, but I cannot compare to you, an immortal who has only cultivated for a few hundred years. Also, you can ascend to the great world after a few hundred years. From what I know, those who ascend have to cultivate for countless years before they can reach the great world. Anyway, let's forget about becoming sworn brothers. Now is not the time. Let's go back to the sect and become sworn brothers. Where are you going? On the flying sword, Baby Huang Fu insisted on the topic of becoming sworn brothers. Seeing that they were no longer in a world of ice and snow, and that they were about to fly out of this forest, they felt a lot more relaxed. But suddenly, the toad monster let out a deafening roar from behind them. The two of them were so frightened that they almost stumbled and fell off the flying sword. Fortunately, after 3 breaths of time, the two of them were finally able to fly out of the cold air. The forest quickly disappeared from their side. You bastards! Let's see how this king will deal with you. At the same time, the toad youth 1,000 meters behind them had completely ignited into a demonic flame. Furthermore, the flying sword in his hand was clearly much faster than before. Oh no, I need to take out my magic treasure. Baby Huang Fu was so frightened that his true qi involuntarily dissipated. Brother Bao, you go first. We will split up. What Baby Huang Fu did not expect was that just as he finished speaking, he was about to release his magic treasure to defend himself. Su Fang actually used a sneak attack to strike his stomach. With a bang, Baby Huang Fu and his flying sword were sent flying back to the Star Mist world. Blood poison. At this moment, a blood mist surged towards the toad youth. If you have the ability, then come and chase this young master. You bug-eating toad, if you can't eat bugs, then go eat shit. Controlling the blood poison, Su Fangda cursed and flew in another direction. Chapter 952. Boom. The blood poison gushed out from Su Fang's body. It was the latter. The toad youth leaped into the air and grabbed the terrifying blood poison from the ghoul with his hand, tearing it into pieces. This completely proved that any brilliant means or special power was still ordinary and fragile without the support of one's realm and strength. So powerful. I'm afraid I can't escape more than 10 miles away. I can only find a nearby place to hide from this toad monster. 1 mile away, Su Fang, who was riding on his sword, saw this scene from the corner of his eye. He condensed more blood poison and swept it towards the toad monster. At this moment, he felt a chill in his heart. He even felt a hint of regret. Why did he have to risk his life to save a young master who was not related to him? In the next second, he stared in front of him. The star fog was pushed aside by a fog. There was actually a deep ravine on the ground below. It was so deep that he could not see the bottom. He rushed down without hesitation. Behind him, there was another explosion. The toad monster chased after him and used its demonic power to tear apart the blood poison that was coming at it. This essence immortal is just a essence immortal. Why does he have the demonic Tao's demonic poison? Fine, I'll eat this person first and then find that young master. Anyway, he can't escape after absorbing my aura. The toad monster was obviously faster than Su Fong. If this continued, it would be able to catch Su Fong in its palm in less than 5 breaths. If it was not for the blood poison, it would only need 2 breaths to catch up. Master, the young master and that lackey called Huang Fu Shaoying will act separately. Should I go find the young master directly or save that cultivator first? The monster had just left. A black-robed old man suddenly flew out from the star fog. This old man was 10 times faster than the toad monster. He looked in 2 directions and stared at the toad monster that was flying towards the ravine on the ground. He released a wisp of his essence soul. I am in the middle of seizing a fay that has just been born, so I can't spare too much energy. Your mission is to protect the baby, so naturally, the first thing you need to do is to ensure the baby's safety. As for that ordinary disciple called Huang Fu Shaoying, it will depend on his own luck. Who asked him to be so unlucky as to meet me just when I am about to seize a fay? The voice of a woman's primordial spirit sounded from the depths of the cave. This person is much stronger than the disciples who followed Bao Bao in the past. He has indeed obeyed my orders to protect Bao Bao. However, I can only abandon him now. If he comes back alive, I will truly put him in an important position. I understand. The old man immediately ran towards the star fog where Huang Fu Bao Bao had fled and chased after him silently. With his supernatural power and speed, he would be able to find the baby Huang Fu in 1 breath. In another breath, he would be able to reach the baby Huang Fu. On the other side, in the deep trench not far away. Tut tut tut, another patch of blood poison was left behind. Su Fong did not care if it was spider webs, tree roots, air, or other plants. He fell into the trench and was instantly engulfed by the fog. This place is secretly connected to the Phoenix Transformation Valley. Could it be that this kid knew about it and purposely escaped here? A surge of Yao aura shattered the blood poison. In just the second breath, the toad youth had reached the blood poison and shattered it. He looked at the swaying fog and instantly entered it with a murderous aura. It's coming. It's getting closer and closer. In the bottomless trench, Su Fong flew past a large number of vine leaves. He had been releasing his full power. Although he could not see the monster toad, he could sense the fog above him. The monster toad was less than half a mile behind him. At this moment, his body and mind felt weightless. He was about to fall into this bottomless abyss. Roar! After passing through another patch of lush vegetation, suddenly, several big goblins flew into the sky with a bloody stench. Su Fong flew right in front of them. Instantly, the big goblin roared and chased after Su Fong greedily. However, the monster toad had also charged over. Several big goblins had discovered it. Some big goblin attacked it, but they were no match for the monster toad. There are still so many big goblin. Good, I'll use you guys to stop the monster toad. Unexpectedly, after 100 meters, a few big goblin flew over from the depths and saw Su Fong. Su Fong was very brave. Even though the big goblin had discovered him, he still braced himself and flew past the big goblin. All of you get lost. He belongs to this king. The few great demons were shaken to the point where they screamed miserably. The monster toad chased after Su Fong. Realizing that so many great demons had their eyes on Su Fong and were also chasing after him, it was unable to restrain its anger. Suddenly, from its human form, it exploded with a bang and turned into a large, gray-colored toad. With a stomp of its thigh, the toad's speed doubled. Moreover, its charging and leaping power sent several great demons flying. Moreover, their bodies were badly mangled. What a powerful toad! With Su Fongda's full power, he saw that the monster toad was as big as the old toad deity. Its speed was indescribable. It would catch up to him in just a few breaths. At this moment, Su Fong deeply felt that the god of death was waving at him. His eyes became brighter. Suddenly, the fog around him condensed, and a few big goblins appeared. Su Fong narrowed his eyes and changed direction, flying towards the fog where the big goblin had appeared. Hoo hoo, paw 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 path monster toad leaped over quickly and domineeringly sent the big goblin flying. After passing through the fog, it thought that it would be behind Su Fong. In the end, it saw Su Fong, who was less than 100 feet away. However, the monster toad's expression changed. In front of it was a cave. More than a dozen big goblin were lying around, resting. There was no telling how many big goblin were in the cave. It was obviously a big goblin's nest. However, Su Fong flew into the lair just like that. Despicable human, you use this method to deal with me time and time again. These low-level demons. Let's see how this king will deal with them. Fortunately, you have flown into the nest and have no way out. Let's see how I will deal with you. It released its demonic aura again. The monster toad transformed into the youth from before and stepped into the cave after Su Fong. At that moment, the big goblin resting at the entrance of the cave had already noticed the youth. When they saw the demonic aura, they realized that the monster toad was also a big goblin. Furthermore, it had the appearance of a human. They were a little afraid. The youth's eyes burned with a faint and violent demonic fire. Demonic fire spread around him as well. In a flash, he scanned the big goblin around him. All of you scram! Hoo hoo hoo, they really ran away in fear. The monster toad strode into the cave. Suddenly, Big Goblin ran out from inside. However, just like the big goblin, they immediately ran away when they saw the powerful monster toad. Deep in the cave, Su Fong immediately released the wooling goblin. Then, it turned into a rock belt and pulled Su Fong into it. Su Fong followed the demonic aura along the stone walls. When deafening explosions and screams came from the cave entrance behind him, he began to hide his aura and enter the cave under the protection of the wooling goblin. At that moment, the big goblin ran out and almost brushed past the wooling goblin that had transformed into its original form. Fortunately, the wooling goblin had turned into a demon immortal. After becoming an immortal, its strength was around that of a spirit immortal. At that moment, it was protecting Su Fong as they went deeper into the cave. Suddenly, a strong big goblin aura awakened in the cave. This demonic aura made Su Fong realize that it was similar to the monster toad. However, it was slightly weaker than the monster toad. It was obviously very strong, but it was still not as strong as the monster toad. That's great. If these two big goblins fight each other, won't we have a chance to escape? Monster toad, even if I can't defeat you, I will find a way to defeat you. Su Fong could finally heave a sigh of relief. In front of them was the depths of the cave. There was a big goblin. It was a woman dressed in red. Her entire body was covered in heavy makeup, and she looked very coquettish. Beside her was a huge snake that was crawling around like a statue. As the woman waved her hand, the huge snake suddenly straightened its head. She sat on the snake's head and smiled coldly. Then, the huge snake slowly carried her towards the entrance of the cave. When it brushed past Su Fong, the big goblin did not discover the wooling goblin. This was the difference between spiritual monsters and demons. Spiritual monsters had the power of nature, while demons had to rely on cultivation to control the power of nature. Is there no way out? They arrived at the end of the cave's throne. The wooling goblin protected Su Fong. Its aura was hidden to the extreme. However, Su Fong looked at it and saw that there was no other way out. However, in the depths of the right side, there was a crack that could only fit 2 people. It was very deep and there was spring water that flowed through it. Go in. We will slowly escape. Su Fong's eyes narrowed. It was impossible to leave from the entrance of the cave. Without the toad monster and the big goblin woman, they could only enter the cave. The wooling goblin hesitated. Master, with my current strength, I am unable to penetrate the solid rocks of this great world. If I really enter, I will be trapped inside. I also know that you and I cannot control our strength in this great world like in the small world. However, we can survive in this environment. Avoiding the big goblin's pursuit is the most important thing. Yes, master. I will listen to you. The wooling goblin's body curled up. Like a black snake, it slowly slithered along the stone wall towards the cave. Whoosh, whoosh. Just as it entered the cave, 2 waves of demonic aura suddenly flashed from the demon cave behind it. Su Fang was shocked and hurriedly urged the wooling goblin to quickly enter the cave. Where is there no one? A man and a woman. 2 big goblins floated in this cave. They were the toad monster and the owner of this demon cave. After the woman finished speaking, she was very unwilling. However, the toad monster allowed her to leave. I will give you many immortal pills. Just leave. This cave will be mine in the future. All right, Luhan. However, you have to remember that if you want to cooperate with me, I will always be waiting for you. You and I can only truly have a territory in this wasteland if we work together. The beautiful woman was very graceful. Then, she disappeared into the cave. The toad monster immediately breathed out a mouthful of demonic aura. Then, it took a deep breath. In an instant, the demonic aura surged towards the cave. Furthermore, at a depth of a few feet, the wooling goblin was entangled by the demonic aura. He immediately looked at the wooling goblin greedily and excitedly. Oh, a human can actually control an earth goblin. No wonder you hid so well. Even the owner of this cave did not discover you. However, your good days have come to an end today. I did not expect a virtual immortal like you to be so capable. It seems like you must have some treasures on you. Damn it! Buzz. When the wooling goblin was entangled by the demonic aura, it had no choice but to open its mouth. Su Fang suddenly flew out on her sword. Pa, pa. She also shattered the surrounding demonic aura. However, she did not do it too quickly. The cave could only allow one person to pass through at a time. The demonic aura still covered Su Fang's surroundings. Haha, where are you running to? The toad monster laughed from ear to ear. I will not be caught by you. If you have the ability, come in. I am not afraid of you. Seeing that the wooling goblin was entangled, Su Fang was prepared to activate the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda to suck it in. Otherwise, the wooling goblin would be in trouble. With the wooling goblin's strength, it was like a bug in front of the toad monster. It could not do anything. You have no way out and you are still so proud. Good, watch how I deal with you. You are just a virtual immortal. I have killed so many of you. The toad monster laughed even more brazenly. At that moment, he suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a bloody tongue. Chapter 953. Sword, Flying Sword. Seeing the bloody tongue, Su Fang suddenly remembered the battle with the celestial toad. The celestial toad's ability was not only speed and poison, but also its tongue. It was as sharp and swift as a flying sword. Haha, see? This king's ability is not something you can imagine. See how I'll deal with you. The toad youth was disgusted to the extreme. It was like a lizard that ate flies. Under the influence of the beast Qi, the wooling goblin shouted to Su Fang, Master, run away. Don't worry about me. Don't worry. Although I'm not a match for the monster toad, I have many methods that even it would be wary of. Today, I'll just give it my all. Also, you know that I have some methods to kill experts. Right? You have to cooperate with me and work together to deal with this big goblin. Master, give the order. Su Fang and the wooling goblin communicated for a while in this dangerous atmosphere. Su Fang secretly released an earth elemental divine might through the power of the world and poured it into the wooling goblin. The monster toad outside the cave probably did not care about the wooling goblin. Just the beast Qi that it released was enough to suppress the wooling goblin. Whoosh! The monster toad slowly opened its mouth and swallowed. The bloody tongue flew over without any restrictions, just like the monster toad spat out a blood-colored flying sword. Blood poison. Seizing the opportunity, Su Fong watched as the blood tongue shot toward him. Suddenly, he released a burning cloud of fire, as well as a cloud of blood poison. Ziz! The bloody tongue was instantly trapped in the cloud of fire and the blood poison. The blood poison corroded the surrounding air and affected the attack of the bloody tongue. It slowed down, but it still tore through the blood poison as if it was alive and drilled toward Su Fong. Ziz! And it suddenly sped up. Su Fong's pupils contracted, his body trembled, and he quickly retreated. Bang! However, at this moment, the blood tongue slammed into Su Fong's back like a flying sword, sending him crashing into the wall of the cave. Crack, crack, crack. By the time he stabilized his body, a cracking sound could be heard. It was the sound of the Silver Moon immortal armor shattering. It turned out that there were many cracks on the immortal armor. Looking at the bloody tongue, Su Fong truly knew how terrifying the big goblin was. Grabbing a heartless sword spy flying sword, he used wings of flaming cloud and continued to spray out blood poison. This king didn't even manage to pierce through your body. So you have an immortal armor protecting you. Unfortunately, this kind of low-level immortal armor isn't a match for this king. Just accept your fate. At this moment, the toad monster suddenly stepped into the cave. Then, it slowed down and floated above the wooling goblin. It stepped on the demonic chi and faced Su Fong directly in the eerie cave. Su Fong's heart turned cold. I won't accept my fate. Come on, I'll cut off your tongue and make it into a salad. Whoosh, the bloody tongue began to wriggle again. This time, it was different from last time. The bloody tongue dripped drops of terrifying venom. The toad monster wanted to use the combination of venom and the bloody tongue to deal with Su Fong. Su Fong wasn't afraid of using venom. Whoosh, Su Fong really wanted to use all his means. Even the blood ghost true demon, the ghost ghoul that had transformed into a ghoul, separated from his body. The toad monster was shocked. What kind of monster is this? Or is it an evil creature of the demonic path? You use venom, I use venom too. It's fair, right? After Su Fong finished speaking, the ghoul released a shocking amount of blood poison into the cave. You're courting death, a low-level existence. The toad monster trembled violently. Then, its bloody tongue shot out like a flying sword, whizzing toward Su Fong. It also constantly used its demonic chi to shake off the blood poison around it. Bit by bit, it approached Su Fong. TSK, TSK, TSK. Under Su Fong's control, the heartless sword spy's flying sword slashed out streaks of flaming cloud sword chi. Pa pa pa. The flaming cloud sword chi quickly and accurately struck the bloody tongue. However, it was either corroded by the venom and started to melt, or shattered by the bloody tongue. He didn't expect that even a high-grade Dao artifact and Su Fong's strength wouldn't be a match for the toad monster's tongue. This was the shocking difference brought about by the difference in realm. If Su Fong was a spirit immortal, he would be able to somewhat block the bloody tongue. However, if he was a cave immortal, then the toad monster's bloody tongue would really be a side dish. Su Fong was left with no choice. Even after using all his skills, he still couldn't stop the bloody tongue. Fortunately, the ghoul's venom was released from its mouth. It was even more powerful and could block the poisonous gas coming from the bloody tongue. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The bloody tongue wasn't afraid of the ghoul's venom. After all, its aura was much stronger than the ghoul's. It still charged toward Su Fong valiantly. There's no other way. I can only use the heartless sword spy again. Once I use it, I'll use up more than half of my true chi. Take a gamble. He had to risk his life. Gritting his teeth, Su Fong made a decision in an instant. He activated the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda in his body and displayed his natal state. He allowed the strength of the 14 slaves to be augmented in his physical body in his natal state. At that moment, his strength immediately surpassed the essence immortal realm and reached the spirit immortal realm. Moreover, he had reached the peak of the spirit immortal realm and was close to the cave immortal realm. In other words, he now had the strength of a cave immortal. This was the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. This was his natal Dharma treasure, as well as the terrifying power brought by suppressing the slaves. It was also Su Fang's true strength. Patter in just a few breaths. Little did he know, the toad monster's bloody tongue was like a bolt of lightning. It shook off the blood poison released by the ghoul and wrapped around Su Fang like a whale swallowing fish and shrimp. It wrapped tightly around Su Fang. The demonic poison, demonic aura, and the power of the bloody tongue all pressed toward him. The toad monster grinned and said, "Haha, this king said that if a essence immortal like you dares to ignore this king, you will die. Do you believe me now? This king is the most powerful existence in this desolate swamp. You toad, I will not let you off. I will definitely take revenge on you." Su Fang was still shouting at the toad monster despite being shackled by the bloody tongue. The bloody tongue suddenly shackled Su Fang and swept toward the toad monster. Natal divine might, merciless sword spy. When it was halfway there, Su Fang suddenly spat out a 1-foot-long sword spy from his mouth. A Dharma treasure? The big goblin had yet to realize anything. The sword spy passed through the demonic aura and charged toward the toad monster. The toad youth didn't seem to care. Of course, he wouldn't be so arrogant as to use a Dharma treasure to attack his physical body. He struck out with his palm, sending demonic aura toward the sword spy. Boom! The demonic aura concentrated on the sword spy, almost flipping it over. But at this moment, the sword spy suddenly burst out with a buzzing sound and a blinding sword light. Whoosh! 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 The flying swords of the merciless sword spy exploded from the blinding sword light. In the middle of the stalemate between Su Fang and the toad monster, the unparalleled sword chi exploded and covered the bloody tongue. Then, the destructive sword aura that was set off caused the surrounding caverns to shake violently. Many rocks began to collapse. Because the space was too narrow, the explosion and collapse came too quickly. The toad monster and Su Fang were both caught in the huge collapse. Boom! Pieces of falling rocks smashed onto Su Fang's body. He felt as if he had sunk into a pile of rock. When the violent collapse ended, Su Fang heard the sound of the Silver Moon divine armor completely shattering. He was already heavily injured. He felt dizzy and spat out mouthfuls of blood. Then, with a thought, a large number of silver fragments appeared in front of him. Looking at himself, half of his body had sunk into the rubble. In the dust in front of him, which was still in the midst of a large-scale collapse, a demonic flame approached him. Damn it! This king has never suffered such a great loss in the hands of a human. Shame. This is this king's greatest shame. Sizzle! Sizzle! The demonic flame advanced step by step. The big goblin, which was no longer in its human form, carried the demonic flame. There were also many bloodstains on its body. It walked through the ruins step by step. Its strong body rubbed against the surrounding caverns from time to time. As for its demonic flame, once it touched the surrounding rocks, as long as it was the size of a fist, it would instantly be burned by the demonic flame and crushed into dust. It could be seen how powerful and furious the big goblin was at this moment. With this aura, once it enveloped Su Fang, he would instantly be turned into minced meat. Su Fang seemed to see that he was about to die under the demonic aura. However, he secretly formed a seal. Sister Bai. This king wants to shackle you and refine you into a slave controlled by humans. The toad monster was like a mountain. It moved forward clumsily. It was only 50 feet away from Su Fang, but the demonic aura was already 10 feet away from Su Fang. He saw that the rocks under the demonic flame were constantly burning and shattering. Even such sturdy rocks were turning into dust. Could his physical body withstand it? Bang! Suddenly, there seemed to be another collapse behind the big goblin. However, Su Fang's eyes trembled. He saw that the toad monster was suddenly hit by a huge object or a huge force behind it, causing it to be shaken up. Sister Bai, well done. Don't let it leave this cavern. This place can restrict its freedom. This way, it won't be able to use its speed. Okay. Brother, you have to be quick. Primordial Chaos Sacred Realm. As the toad monster was shaken into the air, it was naturally Bai Ling, who was hiding in the Wooling Goblin's body, who had used the Chaos Ring to sneak attack it. He immediately spat out an ancient mirror from his mouth. He grabbed the ancient mirror with both hands and injected 9 Yang True Qi into it. Hiss! A red light that was like the scorching sun broke out of the mirror. Before the toad monster could react, it was enveloped by the red light. It was done. Su Fang gritted his teeth. He wanted to scream, but his body was almost broken. He was seriously injured again, but it was not as terrifying as last time. At least, he could use a portion of his strength now. Puff! A white shadow swept past the back of the immobile toad monster. It was angry and spat out a mouthful of chaotic power, taking the opportunity to teach the toad monster a lesson. Bai Ling and the Wooling Goblin appeared together. After venting their anger, they rushed to Su Fang's side and carefully helped Su Fang out of the pile of rocks. The ghoul was also badly mutilated and crawled out without a skeleton. Immortal pills. Su Fang's first reaction was not to suppress the toad monster, but to swallow the immortal pills for himself. He also gave the ghoul, Bai Ling, and the Wooling Goblin a lot of immortal pills. Once my mirror shackles you, any big goblin that comes will be burned to death. Lu Xiong said, I'm willing to submit. I will listen to Master in the future. Although I, Lu Xiong, am powerful, I still fell into Master's hands. There's always someone better than me. I've already lost a lot of weight. I submit. Su Fang put away the Chaos Origin sacred mirror. At that moment, the big goblin, Lu Xiong, also transformed into a human. Su Fang took out a medicinal pill. Immortal Essence Pill. Take it and recover. At first, Lu Xiong thought that it was just an ordinary Immortal Essence Pill, so it grabbed it. This kind of low-grade medicinal pill was of no help to it at all. However, when it saw the Immortal Essence Pill, it was so shocked that it could not stop laughing. This is a high-grade Immortal Essence Pill, and it has been accumulating for a long time. What a treasure, what a treasure! This pill will allow me to recover a lot in a few years. Then cultivate. Once you're better, bring me to the Phoenix Transformation Valley. I heard that an ancient Dharma treasure has appeared there. I want to try my luck there. Then, follow me to 2 other places and help me get some treasures. Of course, I will not treat you badly. I believe in Master. After saying that, Lu Xiong hurriedly swallowed the Immortal Essence Pill. It could not kill human cultivators, so it had naturally accumulated some treasures. It had Immortal Essence Pills, but it was difficult for it to come across such high-grade Immortal Essence Pills that had been accumulating for a long time. At that moment, Bai Ling was still waiting at the side. She wanted to be careful. What if Lu Xiong really betrayed her? Another 2 years passed. Su Fang had finally recovered. After swallowing more than 100 low-grade Immortal Essence Pills, his strength had reached a certain level of the Essence Immortal 8 Tao realm. As for Lu Xiong, it had also recovered a little. However, it was enough to carry Su Fang across the desolate land. Under Lu Xiong's protection, they returned to the demon cave from the ruins. There was no big goblin. After flying out of the valley, Lu Xiong protected Su Fang and quickly flew out of the deep ravine and into the sky above the mountain range. After flying for a while, Su Fang gradually let down his guard against Lu Xiong. Half a month later, under Lu Xiong's rapid flight, a starry fog world appeared in the depths of the forest ahead. Master, the Phoenix Transformation Valley is a very dangerous place. Even the big goblin would die if it entered. Moreover, there are many true experts of the human race who are fighting for Dharma treasures. Many large factions have come. Even some powerful people from the constellation of 9 heavens have come. They are all here for the treasures. Experts from the constellation of 9 heavens. I have hunted human cultivators in the Phoenix Transformation Valley a few times and was almost killed by powerful humans. I have personally seen many powerful experts from the Astral Palace. There are also powerful and domineering people from other large factions. This time, the appearance of an ancient Dharma treasure in the Huangze astral realm has alarmed many factions from the immortal Ao Great World and the Yuan Lu Great World. I reckon that many experts have come after hearing the news. Then is there an ancient Dharma treasure that has appeared? Of course there is. Not long ago, there was an expert called Monk Shangda. When an ancient Dharma treasure appeared, he snatched it and caused many experts to chase after him. There are also other rumors. I reckon that many experts were lucky enough to obtain the Dharma treasure. Monk Shangda. This monk is also known as Sorcerer. In the Phoenix Transformation Valley, he killed some big goblin. At first, I thought he was a demon catcher. However, he was pursued by others. I don't know if he is still alive. Master, you have to be careful. There are many powerful people hiding in the Phoenix Transformation Valley. They are all here for the ancient Dharma treasure. I am just going to try my luck. It would be best if I can obtain the Dharma treasure. If not, we will go to the other 2 dangerous places. Master, get ready. We are going to enter the Phoenix Transformation Valley. After chatting for a while, time flew by. Suddenly, the 2 of them arrived in front of an endless whirlpool of star fog. With Lu Xiong's introduction, Su Fang found out that the Phoenix Transformation Valley was very large. Indeed, when he looked down, he saw a bottomless abyss. This was only the periphery. After passing through this dangerous star fog, he would reach the Phoenix Transformation Valley, which was covered in star fog all year round. Cultivators had to be careful of this star fog. This was because the star fog inside was constantly swirling with natural air current. The scenery was constantly changing, and it was easy to get lost. Secondly, the air currents could kill virtual immortals, spirit immortals, and cave immortals. Even cave immortals could be crushed to death by the star fog. Fortunately, Lu Xiong had the big goblin's special sense of smell. He had been wandering in the desolate swamp all year round. No matter what, he was better at controlling the star fog than humans. They entered the star fog. Su Fang felt as if he had entered an illusory world. The star fog appeared in different forms. It was either slowly twisting or crazily swirling like a storm. Everything in front of him was suddenly replaced by another form of star fog. He could not tell his direction. Of course, cultivators with the power of the world could determine the direction by the distribution of the power of the world in this star fog.